Chapter 1184. Baijan reached out and put out the half of the cigarette in the ashtray. When the smell of smoke on his body was almost gone, he returned to the bedroom. Ajiu was already asleep. Her fair and slender ankles were outside the blanket. There was also a pair of very beautiful feet. Even her toes were jeweled and made people like her. This was probably the unique cleanliness and tenderness of the aged cardamom. Of course, this also had something to do with the way Baijan raised the child. As long as Baijan was around, he would never let Ajiu's hands be stained with smoke. Feeding her was secondary. Even washing her hands, Baijan had to do it himself. That was why Ajiu had such tender and pure white skin. No matter who saw her, they would feel that the child was unbelievably clean. This was also the effect that Baijan wanted. His Ajiu, of course, had to be different from everyone in the world. The world was too dirty, and his Ajiu was too clean. If possible, he really wanted to let the child stay in the courtyard all the time so that the things outside would not affect her. But he knew very well that Ajiu would not like that kind of lifestyle. Thinking of this, Baijan walked over and gently squatted down. He knelt on one knee. His gaze was gentle, as if he was not in control. His thin lips landed on that slightly open mouth. It was just a light touch. Baijan's entire body froze. He quickly bounced back and stood there just like that. After an unknown amount of time, he made sure that the person on the bed did not show any signs of waking up. Only then did Baijan sit by the bed. His fingers held Ajiu's ankle and gently covered her with the blanket. When he lowered his head, his eyes were as deep as the sea. In the morning, the sun set. The environment in the courtyard had always been the best in the city. It was just that after winter, the sound of birds was rarely heard. On the other hand, the snow was heavy, and a layer of snow had accumulated outside the window. Ajiu, who had always liked to sleep early and wake up early, rubbed her eyes with her hand. Her long black hair was scattered on the white pillow towel. The light passed through the treetops and shone on her smooth calves, making her look like an angel who had woken up from her sleep. Oh! The angel touched the side of her body. She originally wanted to nestle into someone's embrace. But when he stretched out his hand, he found that it was empty. This made Ajiu sober up a lot in an instant. She blinked her big eyes twice, then hugged the little white cat and sat up cross-legged. Did little brother go to another place to sleep yesterday? Why was that? Ajiu, who could not figure it out, was inevitably a little distracted during self-study. Because she had skipped a grade, Ajiu was now a junior high school student. Speaking of which, she had to mention her deskmate. Ajiu's deskmate's surname was Jiyu Mingcheng. He was a very cool and beautiful young man. He was a transfer student. His hair was dyed dark brown, and he wore a black earring on his ear. He looked like a vampire. He seemed to be very powerful in school. It was said that as soon as he transferred, he became the boss of the junior high school. Many girls liked to stuff love letters in his desk. It could be said that in the past month, because of his appearance, Baijan's voice had begun to decrease. Jiyu Cheng did not like to talk either. However, unlike Baijan, he was a person who liked to play very much. Even if it was a school uniform, he could still give off a ruffian feeling. There was a smell of cigarettes all over his body that could not be dispersed at any time. In fact, he had only been Ajiu's deskmate for a few days. The main reason was that the girls wanted nothing more than to get closer to him, while the boys obviously did not dare to provoke him for fear that they would be beaten up. The homeroom teacher thought about it and thought of a good idea to let him be Ajiu's deskmate. First of all, although Ajiu was a girl, she was still very young compared to her classmates. There was no need to worry that she would affect her studies because of her first awakening of love. Secondly, Jiyu Cheng could not beat her. That's right. This was the most important reason. Even Jiyu Cheng himself was a little brooding. He actually could not beat a girl. Jiyu Cheng did not want to recall how the girl in front of him grabbed his arm and threw him out when he wanted to beat up a classmate in the class. This was simply a shadow for him. Thinking of this, Jiyu Cheng could not even sleep anymore. He simply opened his eyes and casually supported his chin as he looked at the little girl sitting next to him. For some reason, He actually felt that the person in front of him was much more pleasing to the eye than the class belle or school belle he had seen before. It was just that she was still too young. "Hey, I heard that your brother is that by Jean from the 3rd year of high school? With a straight-A student as your brother, do you feel especially pressured? Listen to me and stop learning. If you continue to learn, you will become a fool." Ji Cheng's voice was pleasant to hear, and his whole person had that kind of cool feeling. Ajiu turned her head as if she was carefully sizing him up. In the end, she muttered to herself, "They do look a little alike." Alike? Ji Cheng frowned and then smiled wickedly. "Are you saying that I look a little alike to that popular idol, Bailey Shangxie? Heh, I don't look like him. At most, our style of dressing is the same. Alright, don't change the topic. I'm asking you. Is your brother that by Jean?" Ajiu nodded and put down the pencil in her hand. "Yes. You're not bad looking. No wonder my cousin likes you." Ji Cheng held his chin and continued, "I heard that the two of them are already dating. Have you seen my cousin? She's the school belle of 2nd high school. She's very beautiful. Your brother should like her very much. In the future, when you see my cousin, remember to call her sister-in-law." Little brother had someone he liked. Ajiu was stunned and did not react for a moment. However, Ji Cheng reached out his hand and poked her cheek. He suddenly smiled. "You're really softer than I thought." Ajiu ignored him. Her thoughts began to drift. She remembered that Master Li had said that when people reached a certain age, they would fall in love. Just like Master Li had already fallen in love many times. Ajiu had seen what Master Li was like when he fell in love. He was like a fool. Would little brother become like that too? What's wrong? Ji Cheng looked at her. "Little Bean, don't tell me you want to ruin the relationship between my cousin and your brother after hearing this news. You should be their guardian. That's not good." Little Bean was the nickname Ji Cheng gave Ajiu. Who asked this guy to be so small? Ajiu did not say anything. Her expression was cute. Ji Cheng laughed. "You're really well protected by your brother. Why are you so different from your brother? By Jean, don't be fooled by his gentle appearance. He's a good student in front of the teacher. In fact, he might be more playful than anyone else. Last time, I even saw him at a nightclub." "Oh right, you don't know what a nightclub is." Chapter 1185. Although Ajiu's state of mind was smaller than her peers, it did not mean that she did not know anything. She had seen what nightclubs were like on television. She even knew that her little brother smoked. The last time she ran to the study, she saw Master Li and the others each holding a cigarette in their mouths. It was just that her little brother did not want her to know every time, and he did not allow anyone to come to see her with the smell of cigarettes on them. Ajiu's mind was thinking about falling in love. Ji Cheng was still talking, his voice lazy. "But even if your brother is in love, he won't let you know, right? After all, this kind of thing has to be hidden from the family." This made sense. Every time little gangster Li fell in love, he did it secretly. That's why, Little Bean, you have to give your brother some space, understand? At the end of Ji Cheng's sentence, the bell rang. There was a 3-minute break between classes. A girl stood outside the classroom, wanting to give Ji Cheng snacks. Ji Cheng looked at Ajiu, who was still deep in thought in the classroom. He, who had never been interested in snacks, actually took the snacks. Of course, the girl was happy. She pulled her friend away. She did not see that Ji Cheng put all the snacks in front of Ajiu. "Help me get rid of them. Don't you like to eat them?" Ajiu did like to eat them. Because of this, Bai Zhan would always stuff a lot of snacks in her small school bag. They were all biscuits, small cakes, and so on. He was afraid that she would be hungry. Ji Cheng saw that this child would take out from time to eat after class, so he simply made these snacks. After all, it was quite interesting to watch her eat. Unexpectedly, little Ajiu shook her head and patted her school bag. "Thank you. There are still a lot of things that little brother prepared for me. You can eat these snacks yourself." This was the first time Ji Cheng had been rejected. He narrowed his eyes, but he did not get angry. He just waved his hand and threw the snacks into the trash can. "What are you doing?" Ajiu was completely awake. Ji Cheng did not care. It was originally for you. Since you don't want to eat it, it's useless to keep it. Ajiu paused and said, don't throw it away next time. Ji Cheng smiled and said, I'll stuff it in your school bag. Ajiu did not refuse. She only took out 2 bags of snacks that Bai Zhan had prepared for her and placed them in Ji Cheng's palm. Ji Cheng paused and then smiled. He opened the package and ate it. However, in the eyes of others, especially boys, he was still a very scary person. It was because he really liked to fight and always had a group of people around him. Moreover, no one knew when or what would provoke him. Ji Cheng was very domineering, handsome, and good at fighting. He was almost in line with the conditions that all girls of that age were attracted to. Her classmate also came out. He treated Ajiu differently. However, it felt like he was playing with Ajiu. Although Ji Cheng was only in the 3rd year of junior high school, he had been in love twice since he came to number 1 middle school. He had changed 2 girlfriends in a month. Compared to Li Hailu, he was even better. However, he was different from Li Hailu's flirtatiousness. For him, girlfriends had always been a matter of being together if they were happy, and breaking up with them if they were unhappy. His personality was really cold, and his family was a big conglomerate. Dating was just a game for him. The good thing was that he would tell the girls who confessed to him in advance that he was not a person who valued relationships. If they were willing, they would talk about it. If they were not, then forget it. Even so, there were still many girls who threw themselves at him like moths to a flame. It was rare to see him treat Ajiu like this. But it was obvious that Ajiu had something on her mind today. The specific thing on her mind was that when she was doing math homework with old Mi in her mouth, she would always think of what Ji Cheng had told her. If her little brother was in a relationship, would he really hide it from her? Ajiu paused for a moment. She held the side of her face with one hand and looked at the snow outside the window. However, her little brother had been very strange recently. It was too strange. He would always go to the study at night. It was as if there was something that he did not want her to know. Thinking of this, Ajiu ate old Mi with crunching sounds. She reached out and touched her small stomach, feeling that something was strange. She looked up at the time on the clock on the wall. It would be her little brother's birthday in 3 days. She planned to skip class this afternoon and run out to buy a gift for her little brother. This was because every year, her little brother would buy her a lot of things. Not to mention the clothes, those beautiful dolls and all kinds of Buddhist heart sutras. The latter were more expensive and required a lot of incense money. Ajiu always felt that if she continued to be raised by her little brother like this, even if she became a host in the future, she might not be able to compare to the jade Buddha statues that her little brother had given her. Especially the bracelet on her wrist. Ajiu lowered her head and shook her left hand. Where did you buy this bracelet? Ji Cheng was still lying on the table. When he took a closer look at the Buddha's head, even as a young master of a consortium, he was shocked. This is a good thing. My father has one. It's made of pure jade. But he only has one Buddha's head. You have 18. How expensive is it? Ajiu lowered her eyes and took another bite of old Mi. Little brother bought it for me. Bai Zhan. Ji Cheng shook his head decisively. Impossible. Even if he is the only grandson of the Bai family, he can't have so much pocket money. Besides, how could he bear to spend it? This is pure jade. However, Ji Cheng did not know. To Master Bai, it was just money spent on Ajiu. He would never feel reluctant to spend it. Ajiu had a Buddhist fate. When she entered the world, she was afraid of chaos. When Bai Zhan saw this white jade Buddha statue, he made up his mind to buy it for Ajiu. He wanted Ajiu to be safe for the rest of her life. Ji Cheng was right. No matter how powerful the Bai family was, Bai Zhan was just an underage child. Old Master Bai would not give him so much money to buy a bracelet. But at the same time, Ji Cheng did not know. Why did Bai Zhan go to the nightclub that day? He was there to discuss a project. The project was done by him and Xiao Lin together. The people he came into contact with were all people in society. How could he not drink? However, just as Xiao Lin said, Master Bai just sat there with a smile on his face, but he did not touch anything. If it was not for buying this Buddhist bracelet for Ajiu, Bai Zhen probably would not even sit down. However, Jiyu Cheng still underestimated the power of the Bai family. Bai Zhen was the third generation of the red seedlings. Any random item in his house was authentic. Moreover, Bai Zhen's grandfather only had one grandson, Bai Zhen. It was not a problem for him to be in business, politics, or the military. However, Master Bai had also said that buying things for his Ajiu must be the money he earned personally. Chapter 1186. Ajiu did not know how to make money, but she already had a lot of money in her savings jar. This time, while Bai Zhen was not paying attention, she stuffed all of it into the pocket of her school bag so that she could go and buy a gift for her little brother. But what should she buy? For the first time, Ajiu, who did not know what worry was, felt that her brain was not enough. In the past, she had never worried about this matter. Because every time this happened, her little brother would always kiss her on the top of her head and say that as long as she was by his side, it would be the best gift. But this year was different. Her little brother would be 18 after the new year. He would be an adult at 18. She had to give him a gift. But what should she give him? She entered another cycle. That's right. Since her little brother smoked, she would give him a lighter. In that case, the next time her little brother smoked, he would not have to always freeze outside with Master Li and the others in order to disperse the smell of the smoke. After Ajiu made up her mind, she sat up straight. This was the first time the homeroom teacher had encountered a child taking a leave of absence. Tell me, this child was too obedient. When she looked at you with a pair of big eyes that did not understand the world, your heart would really soften. Moreover, Ajiu was definitely an honest girl. When the teacher asked her why she was going out early, she said with a serious face, to buy a birthday present for little brother. She really did not lie at all. In addition, the relationship between the Bai siblings was well known in the school. In the afternoon, there was also a sports and music class. In order to prevent Ajiu from accidentally breaking any sports equipment during the sports class, the homeroom teacher generously wrote her a leave of absence. He also specially reminded her not to come back before the sports class ended. To be honest, every Wednesday was the most common day for the sports teacher. Because on this day, he had to face a female student who could casually walk with a shot put. Last time, when he let Ajiu fly the shot put, she threw it too far and smashed the window of the principal's office. The principal held him and scolded him for a long time. He really didn't want to mention it again. Fortunately, Ajiu was not here today. The sports teacher was so touched that he was about to cry. After all, Ajiu had told him very seriously that she liked sports class the most. Using such a method to like, the sports teacher really could not be happy. Ajiu herself was very happy. She carried the little white cat in her arms and left the school. This seemed to be the first time she went shopping alone after that year. There were shopping malls near the school, so she didn't have to go far. However, what Ajiu did not expect was that she had just taken a few steps when someone grabbed her wrist. I didn't expect you to skip class. It was Jiyu Cheng. At first, he thought that he had seen wrongly. Why would that little bin come to the mall at this time? He ignored the girl behind him and followed her. Now that he was sure that it was Ajiu, he turned around and said to the person, "You go back first. I'll accompany her." The girl looked at Ajiu angrily, but she didn't dare to say anything because there was almost no one in number 1 high school who didn't know that Bai Zhen doted on his sister. Whoever went against his sister, he would go against them. Therefore, the girl was smart and knew how to control her temper. Then let's have dinner together another day. After saying this, she even smiled at Ajiu, even though it was not sincere. This was why Jiyu Cheng liked girls who were older than him. At least they knew when to advance and when to retreat. What made him curious was why the little bin would appear here. What are you doing in the mall? Aren't you afraid that the teacher will tell your brother that you're skipping class? I applied for leave, Ajiu said as she looked to her side. No one knew what she was looking for with her beautiful eyes. Jiyu Cheng raised his eyebrows. He felt that it was really strange for the little bean to not go shopping. Found it, Ajiu said softly and walked towards a place that specialized in buying lighters. Such a Zippo store could only be found in large shopping malls. The shell of the lighters was basically made of metal, and it felt especially good to hold. Ajiu hugged the little white cat and looked at the lighters hanging on the wall with bright eyes. Jiyu Cheng did not expect her to come to see this. Let's go, little bean. This is not something you can play with. Ajiu did not leave. Jiyu Cheng once again saw what true strength was. He could not pull a girl. Hello, please give me that pure silver lighter. Ajiu let Jiyu Cheng pull her like that. She looked at the salesperson without moving at all and smiled. And the pure black one on the right. The salesperson looked at her face. Little beauty, you are still young. This brother is right. You are not suitable to play with this. I don't play with it. I want to buy it for my little brother, Ajiu said seriously. These two colors are the best match for him. So it was a gift. There was nothing to be surprised about. After all, there were students who came to buy lighters for their father. With this thought in mind, the salesperson took down the two lighters. She was still wearing plush gloves on her hands, as if she was afraid of damaging the body of the lighter. Her movements were very professional. Little beauty, you have good taste. These two lighters are limited edition this year. We only have these two in our shop. Ajiu looked at the two lighters in front of her. Each of them had its own characteristics. The silver one was very clean and bright, and the black one had a perfect cutting curve. At a glance, it looked luxurious. Which one should she choose? Ajiu only hesitated for a second. In the next second, her eyes lit up. Wrap them up for me. Anyway, they were all quite good-looking, so she would just choose them all. After buying the lighters, she could also buy a school bag for her little brother. She had been carrying that school bag for a long time. Although the little brother was very handsome, Ajiu found that she had fallen in love with this feeling. Buy. Ajiu's state really shocked Jiyu Cheng. Little bean, you're not done yet, are you? Bai Zhen has so many clothes, you don't need to buy clothes for him, right? Jiyu Cheng inexplicably became the leader. Ajiu still knew the ways of the world. Jiyu Cheng, thank you very much. When I'm done buying, I'll treat you to a big bun, a vegetarian one. Jiyu Cheng was speechless. What was there to show off about a vegetarian big bun? At the very least, she had to treat him to a Burger King meal. Only the little bin could treat someone to a bun. The clothes for this matter are not bad. Ajiu was about to pay the bill. Jiyu Cheng held her hand. Come here. Look over there. Is that my cousin and your brother? Chapter 1187. Ajiu followed the direction of Jiyu Cheng's finger and looked over. She recognized Bai Zhen almost at a glance. It was indeed him. He had one hand in his trouser pocket and the other carrying his school bag. His eyes were deep and charming. From afar, he looked like a celebrity taking a poster. There was a girl standing beside him. The girl was holding something in her hand as if she was making Bai Zhen laugh. This was the first time Ajiu had seen her little brother so close to a girl other than her. Her big eyes were stunned. I've never seen my cousin like this. Jiyu Cheng chuckled. It seems that she really likes your brother. Wait a minute, Ajiu, don't tell me you don't know that your brother knows my cousin. Ajiu really didn't know. If that's the case, then let's not go over. Your brother definitely doesn't want you to see him outside the school at this time. Jiyu Cheng reached out and grabbed the strap of Ajiu's school bag behind her. Ajiu really didn't understand many secrets between adults. She looked at her hands. They were still very small, and so were her legs. Was there really a generation gap between 5.5 years? What was her little brother thinking? She suddenly didn't seem to know at all. Jiyu Cheng was also surprised that the child didn't resist. It was quite interesting to pull such a little bean forward. Who asked Ajiu to be so cute? He would take her to Burger King or Pizza Hut later. The little bean, this foodie, must be hungry. Jiyu Cheng thought as he walked forward. He felt that his mood had become better. At this time, Bai Zhen finally raised his eyes. He lazily twisted his stiff neck and tilted his head slightly. He did not expect to see the familiar little figure on the other side of the mall. At first, he thought that he had seen wrongly. When he ran over again and took a closer look, the person was already gone. Ji Ru followed behind him, as well as Xiao Lin, Li Hailu, and the others. Xiao Lin was the first to speak. He lowered his voice and whispered in Bai Zhen's ear, "Since we want to cooperate, we have to care about the Jiyu family's face. Old man Jiyu is still waiting downstairs. The conditions of the cooperation don't say that we have to accompany his granddaughter to go shopping." Bai Zhen was still looking around. Xiao Lin chuckled. "This project can make a lot of money. Didn't you want to buy a temple for Ajiu? You can't do it without 6 or 7 digits. We'll talk about this later. I think I saw Ajiu just now." Bai Zhen stretched out his hand to push Xiao Lin away. Ji Ru laughed at this moment. "Bai Zhen, are you looking for your sister?" Hearing this, Bai Zhen suddenly turned around and looked at her. "I saw your sister too. She seemed to be with my cousin just now. My cousin is different from ordinary junior high school students. He knows how to take care of people. Don't worry, the two of them seem to have a good relationship. A person like my cousin would actually carry a girl's bag. It's really not like him at all." The more Bai Zhen listened, the heavier his eyes became. Anyone who came into contact with those iron-cold eyes would be frozen to the point of being unable to speak. Not to mention Ji Ru, who was standing in front of Bai Zhen. She did not understand what she had said to provoke Bai Zhen. He just put his hands in his trouser pockets and stood there as if there was a coldness that kept people 1,000 miles away. Xiao Lin also understood what was going on. He was afraid that Ji Zhen would do something in the mall, so he grabbed his wrist. Unexpectedly, Bai Zhen was surprisingly calm. He retracted his gaze. "What else do you need to buy?" "Buy everything. We still have to go home in the afternoon." He told himself that it was normal for Ajiu to have a friend. There was no need to make a big fuss out of nothing. Yes, he shouldn't always think badly of things every time there's a sign of trouble. Although he thought so, he did not know if it was because he was about to leave. Sometimes, he would watch Ajiu, who was lying on his shoulder, grow up day by day. He would always feel uneasy. He was 5 years older than her. In her eyes, he might just be an older brother who was meticulous to her. Just an older brother. Bai Zhen held the bag in his hand. He should not be thinking so much at this time. Ajiu was still young. What he needed was to accompany her as she grew up. But now, Bai Zhen was no longer sure what he would do if Ajiu did not choose him when she grew up. Or rather, during this process, she had a good impression of a boy of the same age. What should he do? He kept repeating this question in his heart. Until he left the mall, he did not put much thought into business. Old Master Jiyu liked Bai Zhen very much, and the Bai family had a good relationship with him. It was just that they were not in the capital in the past. Now that they were back, it was good for both families to interact more. Ji Ru could also see that Bai Zhen did not like to accompany her, but this was nothing. When her grandfather first asked her to get in touch with the Bai family, she did not like it. However, after meeting Bai Zhen, she was quite satisfied with her grandfather's arrangement. Bai Zhen was probably the same. Ji Ru turned around and glanced at Bai Zhen through the car window. She did not care if Bai Zhen would reply to her greeting. The corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. "You like him?" Old Master Jiyu teased. Ji Ru had been abroad for a long time, so she admitted it happily. "Yes." "Then you have to chase after him yourself. Grandpa can't help you with this kid from the Bai family." Ji Ru was smart. When she heard old Master Gu's words, she knew that he was willing to do this for her. In the 3rd year of high school, what ordinary families thought the most was to let the students focus on the exam. But for families like Bai Jiyu and Xiao Li, in fact, as soon as the children entered high school, they had already been arranged. Basically, they would go abroad to study after graduation. Bai Zhen was probably someone who rarely went to the army. He did not seem to have used the Bai family's power at all. Except for doing business. Bai Zhen was not stupid. Since his family background was there, it would be a waste not to use it. It was just in terms of studying. When Bai Zhen was in high school, a foreign university had sent an invitation letter, wanting to make an exception to accept him. Bai Zhen did not go. If he went abroad, what would Ajiu do? Aju did not like to eat Western food. She only liked to eat steamed buns and white rice. Baijan was not willing to let Aju go with him to suffer, and he could not leave Aju. The child had followed him since she was young, and many things were done by Baijan himself. Aju was easy to raise. She would eat whatever he fed her. However, Baijan also realized that she could not go to very noisy places. Once she went, she would be listless unless he was with her. Baijan had thought about it before. He wanted to raise his Aju until she was white and chubby. He could not just leave when she was still young. Although Aju had mentioned that she had a mother, the temple had never accepted babies. Chapter 1188. Buddhists had always paid attention to karma. If a baby's parents were still alive, the temple would not accept it. Unless it was an orphan. Or perhaps it was really a Buddha. Compared to the latter, Baijan naturally felt that the former was the real reason. Therefore, until now, the invitation letter from the foreign university was still kept in the study by Old Master Bai. Baijan was destined to go to the army, but before he went to the army, the only thing he could not bear to part with was Aju. He originally thought that he had thought it through thoroughly, but he did not expect that someone would still approach Aju when he did not know. Aju's head was also stuffy now. Looking at the hamburger that Jiyu Cheng handed over, she shook her head. "Thank you, but I don't eat meat. I only eat vegetables. I want to go back to school. Otherwise, my little brother will be anxious if he can't find me later. He's shopping with my cousin now. He probably won't be able to find time to pick you up in the afternoon." Jiyu Cheng wiped his hands. "To be honest, if I had a sister like you, I would definitely feel guilty like Baijan. Therefore, Aju's words are true. Don't be too clingy to your brother. He must be in a difficult position. Otherwise, how could he not tell you that he even knows my cousin? He must be afraid that if you know, it will affect him." Aju tilted her head and pursed her small mouth. In the end, she still insisted on going back to school. Jiyu Cheng could not even catch up with her. He bumped into many people along the way. Jiyu Cheng, who had not even finished his hamburger, was somewhat unhappy. Why was the little bean so stubborn when it came to her brother's matter? In fact, what happened today had a certain impact on Aju. When she was young, she thought that her little brother was a Buddhist disciple like her. He could not break the precepts, so he could not fall in love. Now she understood that her little brother was actually different from her. He could fall in love, even get married, and have children. She had to ask if her little brother really had a girl he liked. If that was the case, she did not want to affect her little brother. But for some reason, she felt very awkward in her heart. Aju's awkwardness was reflected in the snacks that Baijan stuffed into her school bag. She did not touch any of them. Even when the little white cat used its soft head to nudge her, she did not want to talk to the cat as usual. It was still snowing outside. Baijan was still waiting for Aju to finish class at the usual place. He was carrying a school bag on one shoulder and wearing a pure white down jacket, which made his eyes look even more distinct. The students who came and went were all looking at Baijan. "It's Senior Colonel Bai. He must be here to pick up his sister. Do you guys feel that our school hunk is getting more and more handsome by the day? He's simply a Prince Charming. Not only is he famous in number 1 high school, but the students of number 3 high school and number 2 high school have also come to visit him. There's even a campus belle from number 2 high school chasing after him. I don't know if it's true, but according to reliable sources, the two have already struck up a conversation. It's fake, right? As a siscon, senior brother doesn't have time to date, right? Other than picking up Aju, I haven't seen senior brother with anyone else. I'm afraid it's true this time. My best friend is from number 2 high school. She even saw her senior sister and the school hunk go to Starbucks together and order takeout coffee. Aju had the little white cat on her head as she listened to the discussions around her. For some reason, her footsteps felt a little heavy. She tilted her head to look and realized that she had not eaten the large pile of snacks in her school bag today. When Baijan saw her, his eyes completely softened. He reached out and took off her school bag. Then, he frowned. "Why is it so heavy?" Yes. Aju was beautiful. She reached out and hugged her school bag. She reported honestly, "I didn't eat snacks this afternoon." Baijan paused for a moment and thought of her going out today. "Aren't you hungry if you don't eat snacks in the classroom?" "I'm not hungry today." Adju was still very obedient. She answered whatever he asked. "I went outside to eat French fries." As he spoke, he inserted the straw into the yogurt bag and handed it to her. "Why did you think of going outside today?" Adju thought to herself that this was bad. Little brother was going to know about her buying him a gift. If he knew about this in advance, there would be no surprise. How could she be so careless and be asked so many things by little brother? She could not help but reach out her hand to knock on her little head. Unfortunately, her left hand was already in Baijan's arms, and her other hand could only hold the yogurt. "Nothing, just strolling around." Adju lowered her head and lowered her long eyelashes. She sucked on the straw one after another. She looked a little guilty. Seeing this, Baijan's heart felt as if it had been punched hard by someone. Adju's reaction was not within his expectations at all. He knew better than anyone how obedient Adju was. Usually, she would say whatever was asked. But this time, it was obvious that she wanted to hide it from him. Just because of that little brat in the same class as her? Baijan's Adam's apple moved with difficulty. His hand that was hanging on the other side was tightly clenched. It was clearly snowing heavily outside, but he did not feel cold at all. Instead, it was as if there was something in the center of his chest that was being burned by fire. It was very uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable that it even made him want to crush something. But the person standing in front of him was his Adju. A long time ago, on the day Adju wanted to return to the temple, he had sworn that no matter what happened, he would never lose his temper in front of Adju again. If possible, he never wanted Adju to see his dirtiest and most unscrupulous side. That way, at the very least, he could still be her little brother. Once everything was exposed, Baijan could not imagine what kind of gaze she would use to look at him. He thought that there was something right about one thing. When a person was in the dark and alone, it was nothing. After all, this world was so big. It didn't matter if you were there or not. But when someone brought you light, allowing you to hold another person in your arms every day, watching her smile at you. She was small to begin with, and sometimes she even held chopsticks to feed you eggs. You would feel that no matter what happened in the future, you would not want to go back to the darkness. As for Baijan, the only thing he did not want to let go of was the small and soft hand in his palm. Adju walked beside Baijan. She was really obedient and beautiful. This is the real princess and prince. To be honest, compared to the schoolbell, I prefer my little princess Adju. Really, can you lend her to me? I want a little princess too. Last time, little Princess Adju helped me carry 2 big leather suitcases. The boys didn't help me carry them. When little Princess Adju saw it, she helped me carry them to the dormitory with ice cream in her mouth without saying anything. That look was so cute. As if she had heard someone say her name, Adju raised her small head and looked over. Her small face was very good looking, and her whole person was cute and adorable. Chapter 1189. What's wrong? Baijan asked in a low voice. Adju said seriously, someone said that they like me. Baijan was stunned for a moment before he smiled. His bright eyes and white teeth were handsome. Then, he took off his scarf and wrapped it around Adju's small face. Many people like you. Grandfather and Auntie Wang, which one of them doesn't dote on you to the heavens? Auntie Wang just called and said that she made pea noodles for you. I'll fry it for you when we get back. Yes. Adju's entire face was surrounded by the red scarf, and only a pair of black and bright eyes were exposed. When she heard Baijan's words, she nodded her head heavily and immediately perked up. Seeing that Adju was no longer listless, Baijan was relieved. He held Adju's hand again. From afar, he could still hear him say, "If you're cold, tell me." Therefore, some people were right. Master Bai doted on Adju so much that it was a little infuriating. According to what Master Li said, Adju was almost 12 years old. She was not 2 years old, so how could she not know whether it was cold or hot? If everyone in the world raised children like Master Bai, How many mischievous children would they have to raise? Fortunately, only Ajiu could endure Baijan's raising method. Unfortunately, Baijan's plan to cook noodles for Ajiu was ruined on this day. Because the Bai family had a guest. Since it was a guest, of course, he could not just eat some pea noodles. Old Master Bai asked someone to brew the best Longjing tea. The living room was also filled with fresh fruit plates and dried fruits. There were even chess pieces in the center of the chessboard. His hearty laughter could be heard from afar. It's this move. Back then, I relied on this move to win against you. Yes, I'm not as good as you. The old man sitting opposite Old Master Bai had a dragon-headed walking stick in his hand. He was dressed in a well-made suit. Although his hair was white, he was very energetic. He exuded the demeanor of a businessman from the inside out. Who else could it be but Old Master Jiyu? When Baijan walked in and saw the scene in the living room, he could not help but stop for a moment. Little brother? Ajiu was walking behind him. As soon as Baijan stopped, the tip of the child's nose bumped into his back. She hugged her school bag and blinked her big eyes. Baijan quickly turned his head and rubbed her little nose for her. This should be Ajiu, right? Suddenly, he heard a clear laughter. When Ajiu raised her head, she saw a young girl in a floral dress smiling at her. The young girl was wearing a white cashmere windbreaker. She looked very sweet, very much like those popular girl groups nowadays. She was cute and pure, and it was easy for people's eyes to light up. Ajiu knew this person. When she was picking out a gift for her little brother in the mall, this person was also there. Hi, Baijan. Jiyu Ru blinked mischievously. You definitely didn't expect us to meet so soon. Baijan smiled. There was a unique indifference in his politeness. I really didn't expect it. By the way, Ajiu. Jiyu Ru turned around and continued to say to Ajiu, there's another person who's here too. You'll definitely be very, very happy to see him. Ajiu tilted her head, her face full of question marks. Hey, little brother, if you stay outside and don't come in, you won't be able to see Ajiu's cute appearance. Jiyu Ru put her hands behind her back and shouted softly towards the window. Even the smile at the corner of her mouth looked kind and gentle. Got it, Sister Ru. You're really long-winded. The lazy voice was still crisp, making Ajiu feel that it was inexplicably familiar. Then, there was a loud bang. A figure in a black windbreaker jumped to the window with one hand on the stone steps. His movements were very handsome. That figure was none other than Ajiu's deskmate, Jiyu Cheng. He walked towards Ajiu with a smile at the corner of his eyes. You didn't expect me to come, right, little bean? Ajiu really didn't expect it. Her little head tilted again. Here, I bought it for you. Jiyu Cheng stretched out his other hand with a chocolate cream cake on it. Ajiu liked to eat chocolate. Baijan only knew this. However, the feeling that the boy in front of him gave him made his heart tremble. This boy was very similar to that celebrity. Was it because of him that Ajiu wanted to hide it from him? Baijan looked at the two people of about the same age talking there, especially since Ajiu was very familiar with the boy. Baijan's slender fingers, which were hidden under his white coat, could not help but clench into fists. Even his deep eyes were filled with an unprecedented coldness. Jiyu Ru was still smiling. When she turned her head to talk to Baijan, she accidentally saw his clenched hand. She could not help but pause for a moment. Then, she followed Baijan's gaze and looked over. It happened to fall on her cousin and Ajiu. Jiyu Ru frowned. She thought that she had seen wrongly. She must have seen wrongly. How could someone as arrogant as Baijan show such an expression? It was as if he was jealous. However, thinking about it carefully, probably any brother who had a sister complex would not be able to see his sister being close to other boys. Thinking of this, Jiyu Ru laughed again. She walked to Baijan's ear and said, My cousin and Ajiu have a good relationship, right? It just so happens that we can be even closer. What do you think? Baijan turned his face and his voice was a little cold. Even closer? Jiyu Ru had never heard him talk to her in such a voice. She was about to explain. She heard old Master Jiyu laugh heartily. Brother, look at these juniors. It's so lively when they gather together. Baijan is still the calmest child. Even my granddaughter, who is being chased by others, is helpless in front of him. Ha ha ha. Grandfather. Jiuru reached out and held Old Master Gu's hand. Why do you say everything in front of Grandfather Bai? As she spoke, she raised her eyes and glanced at Baijan. Her thin skin was already a little hot. She looked crimson. Old Master Jiu was puzzled. You weren't like this when you were abroad. This is also strange. Jiu Cheng, look at your sister. She's even shy. She likes me. Jiu Cheng raised his eyebrows and smiled evilly. Originally, they were still happy, but Baijan suddenly interrupted the laughter in the room. Grandfather, has Aju's pea noodles been cooked? Old Master Gu's laughter stopped. Old Master Bai really couldn't do anything about his grandson. I'm not eating noodles today. Let's eat something else. I promised Aju to cook noodles for her. Baijan stood up in a very indifferent voice and held Aju's hand. Grandfather Jiu, I still have to cook for my sister, so I'll go down first. Baijan's words and actions were very polite. But it was precisely because he was too polite that it made people feel alienated. Old Master Bai frowned and did not say anything. Just then, Auntie Wang walked out with the dishes and said hesitantly, Young master, it's almost time to eat. Chapter 1190. Let grandfather and the others eat first. Baijan held Aju's hand and walked into the kitchen at the side without looking back. The kitchen was semi-open, and one could see what was going on inside from the dining table in the living room. Old Master Bai smiled and greeted the Jiu family. Come, come, come. Let's eat first. That kid cooks noodles very quickly. Ruru, Xiaocheng, all of you sit. Don't keep standing. I've long wanted to try Sister Wang's cooking. Old Master Jiu was the first to sit down. He was not clear about the undercurrent between the children. The two old men had not seen each other for a long time and were very happy. The white wine was filled with a plate of peanuts and a pound of beef in sauce. It was no different from when they were young. When old people got together, they liked to talk about the past. On the other side, the two old men were talking happily. On the other side, Baijan had already washed the cucumbers and carrots. He was lowering his head and cutting them into very uniform cubes. The reason why Master Bai could cook now was all because of Aju. One year, Auntie Wang had gallstones. After the surgery, she had to stay in the hospital for at least half a month to recuperate. There was no one at home to cook. Although Aju was not picky about food, there was also a canteen in the courtyard. However, in summer, when a child ate greasy food outside, it would not be easy to digest. One had to know that Aju never got sick when she was in the temple. Seeing that the child's round little face had become sharp, Baijan was anxious. The only grandson of the Bai family, who had never touched the sun, opened the internet to search and prepared to cook by himself. The first meal was cooked by the two of them. Aju loved to eat white rice. Baijan first checked the instructions, steamed the rice in the rice pot, opened the refrigerator, and took out the dishes inside. In the beginning, he wanted to make something simple. At that time, Aju was still young. She would give him whatever he wanted. The child even knew how to crack eggs, but there was always something on her little face. She was so cute that people liked her. Ever since that day, every Sunday, Baijan would cook a meal for Aju. Even after Auntie Wang was discharged from the hospital, this habit did not change. Little brother, do you need to put in eggs? I'll help you crack them. Now, Aju's height was already above the kitchen counter. However, her cute expression did not change much. Her big eyes looked at Baijan, who was cutting vegetables sideways, and asked very obediently. Baijan smiled and put the vegetables into the glass bowl. No need, but there's something that I really need Aju's help with. What is it? Aju had always liked to help her little brother. Baijan lowered his eyes and broke the egg into another bowl. Without raising his head, he said, "Help me put on the apron." Wear an apron? This seemed to be the first time that little brother had asked her for something like this. Aju nodded solemnly. With a small face, she seriously took off the apron hanging at the side and said to Baijan, "Little brother, turn around. Otherwise, I won't be able to put it on. All right. Baijan was wearing disposable transparent gloves and holding a white bowl in his left hand. The white bowl was filled with egg liquid. With a smile on his face, he casually raised his 2 arms and allowed Aju, who was much shorter than him, to put on an apron for him. He had to put on the front first before he could tie the back. Aju was very careful. Baijan could smell her hair when he lowered his head. Sometimes, some things would never change. For example, the gentleness in Baijan's eyes when he looked at Aju. Perhaps he himself didn't think much of it, but others didn't think so. Baijan also could not control himself. He lowered his head and his thin lips landed on Aju's head. Aju raised her eyes to look at him and then reached out to touch her head. She was extremely cute. What about the back? Don't you want to put it on? Baijan raised his eyebrows and asked her. Aju raised the apron in her hand. Of course I want to put it on, little brother, you have to be obedient and not move around. You have to cooperate with me. How do I cooperate with you? Baijan was amused. He used his free hand to wrap around Aju. He was not in a hurry to do anything. Aju stood in front of Baijan. In addition, Baijan's legs were very long. It looked as if her entire body was in his arms. The child was about to speak. A light laugh came from the other side. Grandpa wants lava vinegar. Baijan, you. Ji-Ru obviously thought that such a scene would occur in the kitchen, so she was stunned. Baijan reacted very quickly and circled Aju with one hand. He put down the porcelain bowl in his hand and said indifferently, "What's the matter?" "Oh, I'm here to get something." Ji-Ru was indeed old Master Gu's favorite granddaughter. Even though she felt that there was something wrong with the situation in front of her, she did not say anything. Instead, she walked over nimbly with her hands behind her back. "I feel that you are very good at cooking. You cut it so beautifully. If I have the chance to try your cooking in the future." Baijan did not answer. Instead, he asked in a very indifferent tone, "What do you want?" "Lava vinegar." Ji-Ru was not affected by his attitude at all. Instead, her smile became even wider. "Grandpa Bai said that your Bai family likes to eat this the most." Baijan did not say anything else. Instead, he lowered his head, took out a small jar from the kitchen cabinet, and handed it to Ji-Ru. Ji-Ru took it and turned her head to Aju. "Aju, do you want to go with me? Ji-Yu Cheng is still waiting for you over there." "I'll wait for you," Aju said as she helped Baijan put on the apron. She tilted her head and asked, "Is it tight?" "No." Baijan rubbed her head. The doting look in his eyes was obvious. "Do you want me to teach you how to cook?" Aju's eyes lit up. Then, she nodded her little head heavily. In the future, if he was sick, she could also take care of him. Baijan had always been patient when it came to dealing with Aju. First, he let Aju stand in front of the kitchen utensils. Then, a hand came around from behind Aju. With the smell of fresh grass, he said in a pleasant voice, "Light the fire first. But in the future, when I'm not around, you can't light the fire alone. I can do it myself." Aju felt that she had been underestimated. Baijan bent down and rested his chin on her shoulder. He laughed softly. "Have you forgotten the last time you went into the kitchen and burned the wire of Auntie Wang's beloved rice cooker? Little brother, Woolly Buddha said that if you see through it and don't say it out loud, you can still be friend." Aju clenched her small fists and said, "Don't always mention my dark history." Baijan smiled again. His fingers held Aju's hand from behind as he taught the child how to make fried noodles bit by bit. "Put the oil first, then put the egg in. Be careful that there is no water in the oil pot. Put it in slowly." After Ji-Ru took the jar, she did not leave. She just looked at the side of the youth's face. She had heard too many rumors about Baijan. Every one of them said that he was cold and not easy to get close to. But when facing his sister, he was like a completely different person. Even if they were siblings, wasn't this kind of behavior a little too intimate? Chapter 1191. This was the first time Aju was eating with an outsider, so she thought that she should eat slower when eating. It would not be good if others mistakenly thought that the Bai family was full of foodies. Baizhan naturally sat beside her. He poured the fried pea noodles with laba vinegar and mixed it back and forth before placing it beside Aju's hand. Eat. Tell me when it's not enough. Aju nodded and lowered her head to bite a portion of the noodles. The way she ate was very cute. Jiyu-Ru smiled and whispered to Old Master Bai, Grandpa Bai, has Baizhan and Aju always had such a good relationship? It's really too enviable. My cousin and I can't do it. When I was young, every time I saw him, I wanted to beat him up. Old Master Bai laughed out loud. Little girl Ru, you don't understand this kid. When I wanted to go to the mountain to see Aju at first, he was not happy. Later on, it was Aju who was too good to him. Only then did this kid know what love was. Mountain? Jiyu-Ru asked in confusion, Grandpa Bai, why don't I understand? Old Master Bai put down the wine glass in his hand. Aju grew up in a temple on the mountain. When she first came to the Bai family, she was still a little girl. Now, she is getting older and older. Time really does not spare people. What did he mean when she first came to the Bai family? Could it be that Aju was not a child of the Bai family? Jiyu-Ru suddenly paused for a moment, and Baizhan's incomparably deep gaze appeared in her mind again. Micro-expressions could not lie. She had thought that it was a reaction of a brother who was obsessed with his sister to reject the boys around his sister. But now, Jiyu-Ru's fingers that were holding the bamboo chopsticks suddenly tightened. Soon, she let go again. No wonder he did not have a girlfriend. So that was how it was. How old was he? What could a 12-year-old child know? Moreover, she had interacted with Baizhan so many times. She knew very well how precocious Baizhan was. There were too many traces of aristocratic families on him. When she was abroad, she had seen his photo. At that time, he had just been admitted to the university there not long after he had been in high school. It was enough to show how different Baizhan was. He had been in and out of all kinds of places. She had even seen him discuss business with her grandfather. He did not look like a high school student at all. Instead, he was steady and sharp. It could be seen that his methods were not very clean. How could a child like Aju understand such a person? Jiyu-Ru lowered her eyes and took a sip of the fruit juice. She looked at Aju, who was still eating the fried noodles, and smiled gently. Baizhan might have been able to tolerate this child's clumsiness in the past. But in the future, if they weren't the same type of people, they wouldn't be together no matter what. So what if they had secretly developed feelings for each other? Baizhan was 17. People at this age were at the stage where they wanted to try all kinds of new things, especially boys. And Aju was only 12 years old at the end of the year. She could not even be considered a young girl. What would she know? How long could Baizhan endure? Jiyu-Ru chuckled and put another piece of vegetable into her mouth. Then, she rested her chin on one hand and asked kindly, Aju, is my cousin especially noisy during class? Hey! Jiyu Cheng did not eat much. He had also been watching the interaction between Baizhan and Aju. Now that he heard Jiyu-Ru mention his name, his eyelids lifted. He still looked very cool. Aju replied, he doesn't make a fuss. He sleeps a lot. You two really have a good relationship. Jiyu-Ru sighed. You even know what this brat is doing. To be honest, what did you go to the mall today? Your brother and I saw you too. You were even walking hand in hand. Hand in hand? The person who revealed a surprised expression was Old Master Bai. He first looked at Jiyu Cheng, then his gaze fell on Aju, as if he was asking. At that time, she was indeed pulled by Jiyu Cheng by the wrist, so Aju did not say anything. However, she did not want to continue this topic. This way, it was very likely that the matter of her buying a birthday present for her little brother would be asked. Therefore, she could only bury her head and continue eating the noodles. Jiyu Cheng understood Aju's thoughts. He lazily said to Jiyu-Ru, Sister, can you stop talking? It's just a shopping mall. You even had to make 4 or 5 calls to accompany me to the mall before you came out. You even said that it was cold outside. It's just a shopping mall. Alright, since you said so, I'll believe you. Ru laughed as she spoke. She said to Old Master Gu, "Grandfather, look at how shy little brother is." Old Master Gu also laughed out loud. He couldn't help but look at Aju a few more times. He meaningfully said to Old Master Bai, "This grandson of mine is very different to Aju." Old Master Bai also laughed. Old Master Bai also smiled, but it was much fainter than before. He said, "Aju has been likable since she was a child. All the brothers in this courtyard like her. The little tyrant of the Li family and the one from the Xiao family always give Aju whatever good food and fun they have. This child is born like this. It's not strange that Jiyu Cheng is like this." What surprised Old Master Jiyu was that Old Master Bai did not follow along with his words. Instead, he pushed away his intentions. However, thinking about it carefully, the two of them were still young. It was indeed too early to talk about this, so he focused on drinking again. Ru did not ask Aju anymore. Instead, she playfully nudged Jiyu Cheng with her elbow. "Tell me honestly, what did you and Aju go to the mall for?" "Nothing, it's the little bean, she." Before Jiyu Cheng could finish his words, Aju took a small bean paste bun and pressed it into his mouth. "Auntie Wang is very good at making this. Eat one." Jiyu Cheng had always been smart. He took the bean paste bun off his mouth and smiled. "Okay." This boy was indeed very considerate of Aju. The two of them could be considered to have a common secret. Aju lowered her head and ate. She could not help but heave a sigh of relief. If Jiyu Cheng had said everything just now, then what would she do about the surprise she had prepared for her little brother? Fortunately, she did not expose herself. However, she did not know that when Bai Zhan saw this scene, his entire body was almost motionless. Especially when Aju fed Jiyu Cheng the bean paste bun that he had picked up for her, Bai Zhan and even his fingers froze. In his memory, other than him, Aju would not feed anyone else. But now, she was feeding a boy, and they even had such a tacit understanding. The fire in the depths of his heart seemed to be able to burn his entire body. Sometimes, Bai Zhan always thought that it would be great if Aju did not grow up. If she did not grow up, she would always belong to him. But the reality was that not only had she started to grow up, but there would even be a day when she would leave him because of another boy. Swoosh! Bai Zhan stood up. His eyes were covered by his drooping hair, revealing only the curve of his mouth. "I'm going to the kitchen to get something." Chapter 1192. Aju subconsciously raised her eyes, but she only had time to see Bai Zhan's back as he left. Ru turned her eyes and stood up. She smiled and said, "Grandfather, you guys eat first. I'll see what Bai Zhan wants to take and help him bring it over." After all, Bai Zhan looked too normal. There was no trace of him being left outside. Other than Ru who followed behind him, no one knew that Bai Zhan's left hand was dripping with blood. "Do you need me to help you?" Ru's eyes narrowed at first, then she laughed cheerfully. It was as if she did not see his left hand as she said something beside him. Bai Zhan stood there quietly and did not speak. When Aju walked over with the little white cat in her arms, this was the scene she saw. She originally wanted to go over, but that scene looked very harmonious. She could see that the little brother had come out with an excuse just now. She originally thought that the little brother had come out to smoke. But now, it seemed that she had gotten something wrong. Aju looked at the backs of the two people for a long time. Then, she lowered her head and looked at her small palm. Finally, she walked upstairs with her ears drooping. On the same day, Aju asked herself the same question twice. When would she look the same age as the little brother? After entering the room, the voices outside became softer. Aju sat cross-legged on the bed. She changed her meditation position, somersaulted, and finally lay on the bed. Her long black hair that reached her waist was scattered on the pillow. She was so beautiful that it was unbelievable. When Bai Zhan pushed the door open and entered, this was the scene he saw. In his own room, Aju obviously did not have the habit of wearing long pants. Her beautiful long legs were exposed outside, and she was only wearing a very short pure white t-shirt. She was so pure that it was fascinating. Bai Zhan's mind went blank for a moment. The heat from her body was so obvious that it was difficult for him to ignore it. Before he could even react, he reached out and covered Ajiu with the quilt. His eyes became a little heavy. Don't wear this in the future, understand? Although Ajiu was at a loss, she was very obedient. Baijan carried Ajiu with the quilt and put her in his arms as if to distract himself. Why did you come up halfway through the meal? Are you full? Yes. Ajiu always felt that the little brother today was different from other times. It seemed that even his breathing was hot. Could it be that he was sick? Thinking of this, Ajiu reached out her hand and touched Baijan's forehead. It's not very hot. What's wrong? Looking at those incomparably pure big eyes, Baijan's hand tightened. It's nothing. Human's body temperature will increase after eating. As he spoke, Baijan stood up. Put on your clothes and go downstairs. Auntie Wang has cut the fruit that you like to eat for you. Ajiu nodded and was still very obedient. When she was eating the fruit, she was still worried that something would happen to Baijan, so she kept watching from the side. However, her little brother seemed to be too busy. After all, there were guests in the house. Adults like them had to sit together to discuss matters. For example, little brother and Jiyu Ru. Jiyu Cheng looked at Ajiu from the side and lowered his voice. He said to her, "Little Bean, why don't you want your brother to know that you bought something for him? The day after tomorrow is little brother's birthday." Ajiu squatted at the side and teased the little white cat in a low voice. "I want to give him a surprise." Jiyu Cheng raised his eyebrows in surprise. It turned out that the day after tomorrow was Baijan's birthday. He wondered if his cousin knew about this. "All right, that's all for today. We'll go back first." Old Master Jiyu stood up and said, "We'll go to the ski resort together tomorrow. You have to rest well." It turned out that the two old men had agreed to go on a trip together. Old Master Jiyu came to the Bai family at night to finalize the itinerary. Of course, Old Master Bai did not have any objections. After sending the Jiyu family off, he went upstairs to rest. Ajiu was also sleepy. She was very capable of laying out the quilt and other things. She placed the pillow at the head of the bed and even prepared the blanket. However, Baijan said that he was going to sleep in the guest room today. Ajiu looked at the empty seat beside her. She turned left and right. Finally, she hugged the little white cat and pushed open the door of the guest room with her pair of white and tender feet. For some reason, there seemed to be a very heavy breathing sound in the bathroom. Ajiu tilted her head to listen and took another step forward. "Who's outside?" Suddenly, Baijan's voice was heard. It was filled with a strong sense of hoarseness. Ajiu turned her body and hid in a corner. Could it be that he had heard wrongly? Baijan frowned and turned on the shower again. The water flowed down his back as if everything was normal. However, what puzzled Ajiu was that it was winter. Why was the little brother still taking a cold shower? After Baijan finished showering, he reached out and turned on the switch. He put on a white cotton t-shirt and shorts and walked out while drying his hair. Ajiu hid there and pressed her fingers between her lips, indicating for the cat on her head to be quiet. Baijan first leaned against the head of the bed and lit a cigarette. He only took 2 puffs before putting it out. Then, he picked up the wine glass beside him. No one knew what he was thinking. After about 10 minutes, he finally turned off all the lights in the bedroom. He reached out and took off his shirt, revealing his well-defined abs. Baijan indeed did not look like someone his age. He grew up in the courtyard. Although he had not joined the army yet, there would be people who would specially train him during the summer and winter holidays every year. The knowledge he gained was no less than anyone in the military camp. All of this was reflected in his perfect and slender figure. At night, Baijan was definitely the Baijan that Ajiu had never seen before. His entire body emitted a fatal coldness and extravagance. Gradually, the night grew darker and darker. Ajiu estimated that it was almost time. Only then did she stand up and shake her slightly numb legs. Just like that, she carried the little white cat in her arms and tiptoed closer to the soft bed. Then, she bent down and lifted the quilt. With her palms on the bed, she slowly crawled in with her head and body. Baijan was asleep. In addition, he had drunk 2 glasses of strong wine, so he definitely would not wake up so easily. Even if she crawled in, he would not notice her. Ajiu's thoughts were very practical. Baizhan was indeed not as guarded as before. Under the moonlight, he looked like a quiet prince. Even his sleeping posture had a natural nobility. However, when Ajiu was halfway through, Baizhan's originally closed eyes suddenly lit up. His reaction speed could almost be described as a cheetah. In a flash, Baizhan pressed the bedside lamp with one hand and lifted the quilt covering his body with the other. Chapter 1193. Oh no, she had been discovered. This was Ajiu's first reaction. Ajiu herself was not on guard at all. Her small face was fierce, and her expression was cute. She just arched her body and looked at Baizhan. Baizhan did not expect that the person who broke in would be Ajiu. He thought that it was a cat or something, so he was also stunned. Ajiu took advantage of Baizhan's pause to lie down on the bed and said very seriously, "I want to sleep in the guest room today." Baizhan directly carried her up by the waist. There was a smile on his thin lips. "No." "Why?" Ajiu's eyes would become clearer at night. Baizhan's voice was deep. "Because I'm more dangerous at night." Ajiu reached out and touched Baizhan's face. "It's not dangerous." Baizhan couldn't do anything about her. His original intention was to carry her back, but he couldn't bear to let go. "Then be good and don't move. I've always been very obedient, so I wanted to ask you why you've been avoiding me recently. Is it because I haven't been sleeping well recently? Then I'll change it a little now. Can we sleep together?" Baizhan's eyes trembled. His fingers smoothed Ajiu's hair. "You've always been very good." "That's good." When Ajiu treated him, she had always relied on him. When she was happy, she wrapped her arms around Baizhan's waist and rubbed her small face comfortably. Only then did Baizhan realize that his upper body was naked. His back suddenly stiffened, and his body also heated up. "It's so hot." Ajiu's forehead was still pressed against Baizhan's heart. She opened her eyes to see what was wrong with Baizhan. However, Baizhan did not let her see. He hugged her and said in a deep and pleasant voice, "Be good and sleep." Reality proved that Ajiu was still very obedient. In addition, with Baizhan coaxing her, she fell asleep in less than 3 minutes. The only person who did not fall asleep at night was Baizhan. He looked at the person in his arms. His heartbeat was so loud that he could not hide it no matter how hard he tried. There was also that damn reaction that should not have gotten up. Baizhan was glad that he did not drink too much. If he drank a little more, he was not sure if he would see something worse than a beast. Perhaps Ajiu would never know what he was thinking when he lifted the blanket and saw her. Baizhan's eyes darkened. His eyes followed the moonlight and fell on Ajiu's pink and tender face as he leaned over. Ajiu always felt that something was biting her when she was sleeping. It was probably a mosquito, but she still slept very soundly that night. The next day, when the sun shone in, Baizhan was still naked. His beautiful upper body and tight abdominal muscles were young and powerful. Ajiu was held in his arms with one hand. She was pure and innocent. Jiyu Ru and Auntie Wang had just pushed open the door when they cried out with a pale face. Ajiu was woken up by this voice and rubbed her eyes with both hands. Baizhan's reaction speed was even faster. He raised the quilt and covered himself and the person in his arms tightly. He looked coldly at Jiyu Ru, who should not have appeared here. "Get out." Jiyu Ru's expression was very ugly, but she was also smart. She tightened her fingers and followed him downstairs. Auntie Wang did not expect Baizhan to sleep in the guest room today. Even Miss was there. "Miss Jiyu, it should take some time for young master and Miss to wash up. Do you want to sit in the living room for a while?" Jiyu Ru took a deep breath and recovered quickly. There was still a smile on her face. "There's no need. I smell the smell of alcohol in that room. Baizhan must have drunk yesterday and forgot that he was going out today. My grandfather and Grandpa Bai are already waiting outside. I'll have to trouble Auntie Wang to go up and urge Baizhan later." I was also shocked just now. I didn't expect that the siblings would sleep together. Miss has been with young master since she was young. Young master has long been used to taking care of her. Auntie Wang smiled and said, "Young master and young miss have a good relationship, and young miss is also obedient. Young master is also worried about young miss. If young miss doesn't sleep, who knows how many times young master will wake up just to cover young miss with a blanket. Ji-Ru really did not want to hear how much Baizhan doted on that child. What worried her was that Baizhan drank yesterday. However, since they had already slept together, there was nothing to be surprised about. In the end, her opponent was just a child who had not grown up yet. If it was a 17-year-old girl, perhaps Ji-Ru's face would have already turned pale. But now, no matter how beautiful this child was, she was still young. She had lost to her physically. Ji-Ru laughed and walked into the off-road vehicle in the courtyard. Grandpa Baizhan is still sleeping. Let's wait for him for a while. Grandpa Bai did not agree with Ji-Ru calling Baizhan for him just now. It was just that she ran too fast and he could not stop her. However, what made him feel strange was, Baizhan has never liked others entering his room. Why isn't he angry? It's probably because he slept well last night, Ji-Ru said with a faint smile. There was even a hint of red on her face. Grandpa Ji-Yu laughed. I really can't treat them as children anymore. Look at them. A grown girl can't be kept at home. Grandpa Bai also smiled, but he did not say anything else. In the guest room that was dyed by the morning sun, Ajiu sat up straight half a beat later. She did not rub her eyes, but she was still not awake. Ajiu did not know why, but she had been very sleepy for the past half a year. Especially in December, she was even more sleepy. It was as if she was going to hibernate. For this reason, Baizhan specially bought a string of body seeds for her and hung it around her neck. Although the weather outside was good, the temperature would not lie. It was more than 10 degrees below zero. It was really unbearable to not wear a down jacket. Baizhan saw that Ajiu was very sleepy, so he stopped Auntie Wang's actions and did not let her wash her face. Instead, he wet the towel with hot water and tilted his body to wipe Ajiu's face. Then, he pulled over a small blanket and carried Ajiu downstairs. Master Bai had doted on the child countless times since he was young, so Auntie Wang did not feel that there was anything wrong with Baizhan's actions. Instead, she was afraid that Ajiu would be hungry on the way, so she took out a thermos box. Inside was cooked vegetable porridge and steamed buns. It was enough for 2 people. She softly reminded Baizhan to let her eat all of these when she woke up. On the other hand, Ji Cheng, who was lying in the car, saw that Ajiu was wrapped up and went out. He really wanted to reach out and poke that exquisite little face. Ajiu was not completely asleep. It was just that her big eyes were dark. She sat obediently in Baizhan's arms and nodded her little head time and time again. From time to time, she would wake up when the car stopped. She would lean on the window and look at the endless snowy scenery outside. Chapter 1194. The juniors were sitting in an SUV, a top-notch Hummer. The interior was very bright and was most suitable for going to the snow and desert. The tires were very big, and the ride was very stable. Old Master Bai and Old Master Ji were sitting in another car. They both had their chauffeurs and bodyguards in front and behind them. There were a total of 4 cars. Old Master Bai's car was a red flag, and the license plate number started with red letters. Such a car was actually not worth much, but those who were really knowledgeable knew that the people who sat in red flag cars were usually veterans who founded the country. Ji Cheng did not want to follow them. Compared to going out to see the snow, he preferred to go racing. He was still wearing the same black as yesterday, but today he had changed into a short jacket with rivets hanging on it. The new winter style of boy made his skin look even fairer. At first glance, he did look very similar to Bailey Shangxie. Ajiu stared at the back of his head for a long time before remembering that he was her deskmate. Seeing that Ajiu had woken up, Ji Cheng naturally had more fun teasing her. How about you go racing with me when we get there later? Ajiu shook her head and then turned her face to ask Baizhan, little brother, when will we get there? There's still more than an hour. Baizhan asked in a low voice, what's wrong? I'm a little hungry. Ajiu touched her small stomach. Baizhan smiled lightly and took the thermos box that was placed at the side. I knew you would be hungry. Auntie Wang has already prepared it. Don't drink the porridge. Eat a bun first. When we get there, we'll start eating. Adju nodded and began to eat the bun. Ji-Ru looked at her and smiled. Since Adju wants to eat, do you want to sit in the back? I still have a lot of space here. No need. Baijan's voice was very calm. It's fine as long as she's with me. Ji-Ru's smile did not change. All right, I have a tissue here. Ask me for more when your hands are dirty. After hearing Ji-Ru's words, Adju realized that when the little brother gave her something, his fingertips were stained with noodles. Under normal circumstances, eating in the car was unavoidable. Adju had not noticed it before, but now that the bun was in her mouth, the taste was much less delicious. It was as if she was the only one eating in the car while the others were resting. After realizing this difference, Adju stuffed the steamed bun into her mouth and puffed up her cheeks. She did not take the second one as usual. Ji-Ru seemed to have prepared a tissue long ago. She had thought that it would come in handy. Unexpectedly, Adju on the other side actually picked up Baijan's hand and licked his finger. She licked the skin on his face. She looked like a cat. Baijan looked at her and rubbed her hair with his other hand. Ji-Ru's eyes darkened as she retracted her hand. It seemed that the person who tied the bell needed to untie it. Even if it was a child, she could not be underestimated. They had arrived at their destination. It was Zhongbei, a place known as Heaven's Road. The snow here was very heavy and the temperature was low, but the air was much better than in the capital. The sky was so blue that it was somewhat unbelievable. Large white clouds floated above, as if one could reach out and touch them. Old Master Ji-Yu indeed knew how to enjoy himself. Such a vacation Holy Land was invested in by the Ji-Yu family. It was not like an ordinary hotel, where one stayed in a high-rise building. Instead, he built a dozen classical wooden huts on the snowy ground. Each wooden hut was very large and had a beautiful design. One of the walls was completely transparent, and from inside, one could see the continuous snowy mountains and clear hot springs. The architect of the wooden house was French, and it was more of an exotic romance. There was a large fireplace inside, and the floor was covered with thick blankets. It was very comfortable and warm to step on. In such cold weather, no one would not like to wear them in such a house. 500 meters away, there was a ski club. Everything was very convenient. After lunch, the two elders were going to the tea house to drink tea and play chess. For this reason, Old Master Ji-Yu specially instructed his worrisome grandson, Ji-Yu Cheng, "Don't bully your sister Adju, understand? Grandfather, I've always been very good to Little Bean, okay?" After Ji-Yu Cheng finished speaking with an evil smile, he held Adju's hand and said, "Let's go. I'll take you to play." As if he knew that Adju would reject him, after Ji-Yu Cheng finished speaking, he immediately lowered his voice and said, "Didn't you see that your brother and my sister have gone to change into ski suits? The two of them definitely want to go skiing later. Why are you following them? Are you going to be a third wheel?" Adju wanted to push Ji-Yu Cheng's hand away, but she paused. She remembered the backs of the two people in the kitchen yesterday. In addition to her little brother's reaction these few days, even her reaction had slowed down. Ji-Yu Cheng took advantage of this gap and brought Adju out of the door. It was indeed very beautiful outside. Other than the tall pine trees, there was an endless stretch of white snow. Adju grew up on the mountain. She liked nature very much, especially in a place like this that still retained its original ecology. It made her feel even more at ease. "I'll take you to see my new pet," Ji-Yu Cheng said as he pulled Adju over again. He only stopped when they reached the backyard. The people here obviously knew Ji-Yu Cheng. All of them respectfully called out, "Young master." Ji-Yu Cheng held Adju's hand with one hand and lazily put the other in his pocket as he responded casually. It turned out that Ji-Yu Cheng wanted Adju to see a fierce Alaskan sled dog. It should have been an adult and was very big. She didn't know if it was because of the good food and the suitable temperature here, but she felt that the dog looked very scary. Its fur was very clean and as white as snow, but its neck was chained by an iron chain. Its eyes were very low. "My cousin found this a few days ago. Don't get too close to it," Ji-Yu Cheng said in a low voice. "It bites too hard," so it was chained. Adju still had her white cat on her head. The cat and the person looked at the sled dog. At the beginning, the sled dog was still growling at Jiyu Cheng. Although it did not bite Jiyu Cheng, it was not very friendly either. Now that Ajiu had walked closer, the growl actually became lower and lower. In the end, it used its big head to touch Ajiu's leg. Ajiu had always liked animals. She hugged the big dog and said to Jiyu Cheng very seriously, "It looks like little brother from back then. Can you sell it to me? I want to give it to little brother." Jiyu Cheng, who was still thinking of quickly pulling Ajiu away, was stunned. This Alaskan dog had even bitten a dog trainer before. Why was it as obedient as a cat in front of Ajiu? Thinking about it carefully, the little bean's affinity with animals was indeed surprisingly good. When she was in school, there would often be birds and the like landing on her hands. Could it be that animals also liked simple-minded people? Chapter 1195. On the other side, in the French-style wooden house, when Bai Zhen changed into his ski suit and came out, Ajiu was no longer in the hall. He looked outside the door and frowned. He turned sideways and took out his phone. When he called, he heard the ringtone on the coffee table ring again. Ajiu did not bring her phone with her. But, where did she go? Bai Zhen turned his head and wanted to go to the room to look for her. At this moment, Jiyu Ru walked in with a smile. "Are you looking for Ajiu? She went out with Jiyu Cheng and hasn't come back yet." The relationship between the two children is very good. When Jiyu Cheng came out earlier, he felt annoyed when he saw those young ladies from the aristocratic families. Today, he took the initiative a lot. "Don't worry, Ajiu won't be at a disadvantage with Jiyu Cheng. That guy knows how to play better than us." Moreover, when Ajiu went out just now, her eyes were shining. Her hand was even held by Jiyu Cheng. Bai Zhen did not say anything. He put down the phone that was pressed against his ear and walked out. Jiyu Ru followed behind him, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. "Bai Zhen, let's go skiing too. Ajiu and the others should be having fun right now and don't have the time to care about us. The ski club is in front of the house. I heard from Grandpa Bai that you especially like to ski. I'm a little stupid and can't ski well." Bai Zhen still did not speak. His pure black hair blocked in front of his eyes, which only made his face very cold. That kind of coldness seemed to have merged with the surrounding white snow. There was an indescribable coldness. The snow finally stopped, but Bai Zhen seemed to be a little reckless when he skied. The people in the club usually advised not to go to particularly steep places in snowy weather because it was very easy for people with bad skills to get into trouble. However, when Bai Zhen's figure came down from above and landed heavily on the ground, their mouths were wide open. It could be said that Bai Zhen's posture and speed were even more professional than professionals. Even the ending was neat and handsome. However, no one knew why that extremely good-looking youth suddenly stopped. He just stood in the middle of the snow and allowed the wind and snow to climb up his hair. Jiyu Ru originally wanted to use this opportunity to ask Bai Zhen to teach her how to ski. After all, she only believed in one thing from the bottom of her heart. At Bai Zhen's age, as long as she gave him a chance, she would make him fall in love with her. At the very least, he would not be able to leave her body. Jiyu Ru did not think that this was a big deal. She liked Bai Zhen, and she really did. She was not like Ajiu. A little girl who was not enlightened would only make Bai Zhen unable to find his true self. A person like Bai Zhen should live in a dazzling and colorful way, not suppress the sexiness that he should have released for the sake of a sister. She had heard people mention that in order not to let Ajiu know that he smoked, Bai Zhen had to destroy the evidence on his body every time, and he rarely went out with others. He probably did not want to leave Ajiu alone in the villa to sleep. For the sake of a child, he had rejected those social interactions that were infinitely helpful to the future. Bai Zhen did this, but the child did not know at all. Through these 2 days of interaction, she could tell that this Ajiu only knew how to eat and sleep all day. She did not know anything and was very slow. Bringing such a person along would only drag Bai Zhen down. What's more, the two of them had no relationship to begin with. It was reasonable for her to want to use another method to get Bai Zhen. Jiyu Ru thought that this was probably liking him. No one had ever given her such a feeling. As long as she saw that person's figure, her heart would beat uncontrollably. Her mind would be filled with his face, even if he had always been very cold in front of her. But Ji-Ru believed that one day, he would be warmed up by her. Habits might be hard to change. In the past few years, Ajiu was the one who accompanied him. As long as she accompanied him in the future, there would not be any problems. Ji-Ru waited in place with a smile. When Baizhan finished skiing and walked over, she was the first to react. She held 2 cups of coffee in her hands and was about to hand one of them to Baizhan. "Sister, aren't you guys progressing a little too quickly?" The person who spoke was Jiyu Cheng. He had one hand in the pocket of his windbreaker, and his face still had his signature evil smile. He really did not look like the maturity that a person of his age should have. His other hand was still holding Ajiu, who had her head lowered. Baizhan raised his gaze and fell on the hands that the two of them were holding. His hands, which were wearing ski gloves, could not help but clench tightly. The ski suit he was wearing was very big. It was a dark black coat, a fluffy hat, and a pair of windshield glasses. There was a refreshing aura in his handsomeness. However, this aura seemed to have become very faint in that instant, so faint that it was somewhat lifeless. "Why didn't you take your phone?" This sentence was obviously directed at Ajiu. Ajiu touched her small pocket and realized that her phone was not on her. Ji-Ru said, "Baizhan, don't be angry with Ajiu. Ajiu must have had too much fun and forgot about her phone. Let's all go back. Grandfather and the others should have finished playing chess by now." Baizhan listened from the side, his mind in a mess. If it was in the past, how would he deal with such a thing? He would directly carry Ajiu and make her remember to bring her phone next time. Otherwise, if he could not contact her, he would definitely be anxious. But now, there was another person by her side. Moreover, Baizhan knew very well that the current Ajiu did not want him to go over at all. She wanted Jiyu Cheng to accompany her. Otherwise, when she saw him, she would definitely throw herself into his arms. But today, she did not. No matter how unwilling he was, Baizhan could not deny this fact. The wind became a little stronger, and the snow and dust on the ground were blown up. The 4 of them walked one after another, and the snow would always make a sound when they stepped on it. Ajiu looked at the back of the figure walking in front of her. She thought about it but still did not speak. Because there was no need for her to speak. Someone had already walked to the little brother's side. Ji-Ru tilted her head and smiled refreshingly. "You guys walk faster. If you walk slower, you won't have dinner." Ajiu stared at the back of the figure again. "No, that's not right." There were 2 figures now. They were very tall, and they were also of the same age. The little brother seemed to be very obedient to the other party. When that person said to leave, the little brother took a step forward. With this thought in mind, for some reason, her walking speed slowed down. This continued for a while. When she raised her head, the person in front of her had already left her by a large margin. This was a situation that had never happened before. In the past, no matter how slow she walked, the little brother would stop and wait for her. Or was it different now? Chapter 1196. Your brother walks really fast, doesn't he? Ji-Ru smiled as if she was complaining. He doesn't know how to wait for us girls at all. But it doesn't matter. Ajiu, I'll walk with you. This way, we can still chat. In fact, Ajiu did not want to chat, so she did not speak. However, Ji-Ru did not give up. Instead, she put her hands behind her back and tilted her head to ask, "Ajiu, what does your brother like usually? Can you tell me? Just do me a favor. You know that it's too hard for your brother to chase after me, but fortunately, he's still quite gentle to me." She still had a smile on her face, as if she hesitated for a moment before saying, "Ajiu, there's something I don't know if I should tell you, but seeing that Baizhan is sometimes very tired, so after thinking about it, I decided to tell you. You should also know that people born in the courtyard always mature earlier than other children because they have some social engagements to attend. The last time we went shopping, it was actually Baizhan who was dealing with my grandfather. At that time, we hadn't started dating, and I fell in love with him first. During this period of time, I realized that the most tiring thing for him was to go home because there were some things that he always had to worry about. There were some things that he didn't want you to know, including having to care about what time you eat every day and having to pick you up from school. During this time, he could have been free, but he didn't do that because you are his sister. In his heart, family will always be the first. He doesn't seem to be sleeping well recently. After all, there are many things that he has to take care of. For example, this time, you didn't take your phone out. He was really worried. When he saw me just now, his expression changed. Whatever you want, Baijan will definitely give it to you. He is just afraid that you will be sad. But Aju, you can't ignore Baijan just because you are his sister. He also needs time to rest and fall in love. My words may be a little straightforward, but they are also sincere. Family members should tolerate each other. Moreover, Baijan only has you as his sister. Aju opened her mouth. She wanted to say that she did not ignore her little brother. But when she thought about it, her little brother did spend most of his time with her. It was useful and useless. That was why her little brother was so angry just now. Aju lowered her head and looked at her toes. She was like a little turtle. She had always wanted to be obedient. In order to get that big dog for her little brother, she even promised Jiyu Cheng to play fighting with him for a day. But in reality, perhaps all he wanted was to spend more time with others. After all, little gangster Lee had also said that she did not understand people at their age. Aju thought that it would be good if she could grow up a little faster. This way, she might be able to get closer to people of their age. Even if it was just a little bit, it would be fine. Baijan did not arrive for dinner. It seemed that he had gone to sleep after coming back from skiing. Aju wanted to go up and call him. However, old Master Jiyu said, "Let your sister Jiyu Ru go up. She has experience in calling people." Grandfather. Jiyu Ru's face was red. Jiyu Cheng picked up a piece of vegetable into Aju's bowl and said in a very low voice, "Didn't I tell you before not to be a third wheel? You've been by your brother's side 24 hours a day. He can't do anything bad even if he wants to." "Little brother won't do bad things," Aju said seriously. Jiyu Cheng chuckled. "Little fool, the bad things I'm talking about are things between couples. You'll understand when you grow up. Speaking of which, you're indeed in the third year of junior high school. Your enlightenment level can't be compared with the third year of primary school. But it doesn't matter. You're good like this." Things between couples? Aju paused for a moment. She remembered that every time she watched Conan, Cinny and Xiaolan appeared at the same time. When they were very close to each other, the little brother would always reach out and cover her eyes. At that time, she was still sitting in the little brother's arms and did not know anything. And over the years, other than the big dramas that Bailey Shangxia had acted in, Aju also watched some shows about animals, such as people and nature. Of course, there were also some food channels, such as China on the tip of the tongue. There were also some divination variety videos. Aju was the most engrossed in watching this. Under normal circumstances, after watching it, she would say to Baijan, "The other party's divination is not accurate." During the summer and winter holidays, the Bai family watched these things almost every day. Master Li had once said that they had to be careful when they had a child at home. They could not watch any romance movies even if they wanted to. It would be fine if it was a boy, but they had to be careful when raising a girl. Thus, the current result was the result. When she was young, Aju grew up in a temple. In her little head, other than fasting, chanting Buddha, and torturing people, she did not have any ideas. Later on, when she could recognize words, she would receive things and letters from her brothers. It could be said that if she did not go down the mountain, Aju would always take it for granted that she was a boy. After all, she was going to be the abbot of a temple in the future. Later on, finally, with the hard work of everyone, Aju changed her perception of being a girl. However, the nature of a child had already been developed, and with Baijan's protection. The 12-year-old Aju had indeed not come into contact with too many things in this aspect. Therefore, she was not clear about what Jiyu Cheng had said. However, Jiyu Ru did not wake Baijan up. Seeing that Baijan was gone and the atmosphere in the hall was so lively, Old Master Gu let people go to bed early. When they woke up the next day, they would be able to see the sunrise from the other side of the snow mountain. The rooms were booked by Gu Ru previously. Everyone had a room. Ajiu looked at the room that belonged to her. It was very big, but it was very empty. This was the first time she lived alone after coming out. At this time every day, it was almost time for her to recite the Buddhist scriptures. However, when she crossed her legs, her mind was indeed blank. Should I go and see little brother? Ajiu pinched the little white cat's tail. Little brother didn't eat at night. It's not good for his stomach. I hid some food for little brother just now. I'll send it to him before I come back. I definitely won't disturb his rest. The little white cat meowed. It was low and pleasant to the ears. The night outside was getting darker and darker. It was as if everywhere was dark. This was a little like Baijan's heart. He had drunk a lot of wine. He lay on the sofa in the hall with his long legs and feet. He raised a hand and placed it on the armrest at the side. He looked at the endless snow outside with a cold expression. There were 2 bottles of red wine beside the sofa. One of them was already empty, and the other was half empty. Why didn't you call me when you were drinking? It was Gu Ru. She had let down her hair as if she had just taken a shower. She was wearing a set of extremely pure pajamas and sat beside Baijan with a light smile. Let me have a drink with you, Gu Ru said as she poured wine for him. Baijan, I like you very much. As she said that, she put down the red wine in her hand. Her fingers, which were dyed light red, pressed down on Baijan's hand. Her body also leaned over. I've never liked anyone so much. Baijan, we're the same kind of people. I know very well what you want. Chapter 1197. From the room in the corridor to the hall, there was only a glass window separating them, but it made Ajiu, who was walking over, stop in her tracks. She could not hear what the 2 people inside were saying. However, she could see it very clearly. The 2 of them were very close to each other. They were so close that it was as if they were sticking together. There was a stuffy feeling in her chest. It was bloated. Ajiu did not know how to describe that feeling at all. It was as if she had lost something. She thought of a lot of words, and every sentence was saying that she had taken up too much of her little brother's time. So, did her little brother also want to have more time to fall in love? Ajiu lowered her head and looked at the tip of her feet. She hugged the little white cat in her hand and felt that her fingers were cold. She did not want to stand here. This thought was stronger than ever before. The moment the moonlight shone down, the figure of the underage person outside the window disappeared. Gu Ru's aura continued to approach Baijan. Her lips were painted with a faint powder, and she smiled pitifully. It was as if she was offering her entire body to him. Baijan shook his head. Then, his eyes darkened. He pushed her to the ground and looked down at Gu Ru. His voice was very cold. I thought that Grandfather Gu's granddaughter would at least know what shame is. It seems that I still overestimated you. Gu Ru bit her lip. I did these things because I liked you. You drank so much wine. Do you know how worried I was about you? As she spoke, she stood up again. I know that you are not happy every day. We are in the same boat. Baijan, you can take care of Ajiu for a period of time, but can you take care of her for the rest of her life? She will only treat you as a brother. One day, she will fall in love with someone else. You can drink today, but what about tomorrow? Right now, Ajiu does not put her mind on this. You are so strict with her. One day, she will realize that the little brother she originally worshipped in her heart has other thoughts about her. When that time comes, how will she look at you? Baijan, be with me. I know what you are afraid of. Some secrets can only be better hidden when you have a girlfriend. Just take it as a try and give each other a chance, okay? And your body needs it too, doesn't it? You clearly reacted to me just now. Reacting to you? When Baijan heard this, he turned around and looked at Gu Ru. He smiled coldly. Do you think I'm reacting to you? The only one who can make me react is that woman you're talking about. Haven't you already analyzed what I'm afraid of? Then you should know what I was thinking when I was drunk. It wasn't because you got close to me, it was because I always had this reaction. You should be glad that your surname is Gu. Otherwise, you can forget about keeping your hand. After Bai Zhan finished speaking, he took a step forward. Gu Ru opened her mouth again, her voice filled with emotion. Even if I have to be her replacement, I'm willing. Looking at you like this, my heart really aches. Even if I only have her in my heart. Bai Zhan's voice was very indifferent. Gu Ru nodded softly. I'm willing. Bai Zhan looked at the endless snow outside the window and recalled how Aju was far away from him today. Perhaps one day, when she found out about this, she would hate him. He didn't even know how to make her stay. When Bai Zhan thought of this, his fingers clenched. Gu Ru saw that he seemed to be showing signs of loosening. She said in a low voice, as long as you need me, I will appear, whether it's to replace her or to prevent her from hating you. You should have seen that Aju likes to follow Jiu Cheng. She might not be able to notice it now, but what does that mean? One day in the future, she will tell you that she is going to fall in love. What will you do then? Or do you still have this kind of thought like now? You should know what kind of person Aju is. The things she likes shouldn't change because of anyone, right? And Bai Zhan, to be honest, when you are with her, don't you feel tired? There are many things that she doesn't understand at all. You are 5 years apart, and you will always walk in front of her. She will never understand you. Why don't you try? Maybe after a long time, you will be able to forget her. Even if you can't forget her, I will accompany you. I will definitely accompany you. After an unknown amount of time. Bai Zhan did not speak, but his black hair covered his eyes. Jiu Ru took a step forward and stretched out her hand. She looked like she wanted to hug Bai Zhan from behind, but before her hand could touch Bai Zhan's waist, the young man's voice sounded again. The young man's indifferent voice rang out again. He only said 2 words, no need. Jiu Ru paused and looked at him in surprise. Bai Zhan. I don't want to. Bai Zhan lowered his head and picked up the red wine beside him. His tone was indifferent. I don't want to treat anyone as her replacement. Because some people could not be replaced. Even if he could not get her, he would not use such a method to insult his girl. His Aju had been sitting in his arms since she was young, obediently accompanying him. There was only one Aju in the world who would feed him. What a joke. Why did he need someone else to accompany him? Aju was the one who had taught him this kind of thing for a lifetime. If he wanted someone to accompany him, it should be his Aju. Jiu Ru looked at the tall and straight figure that did not let her touch him at all. Her hands were clenched tightly. She had never begged a boy so humbly before. How many people in the school were pursuing her? There were also those outside the school. Which one of them did not hold her in their hands? Why did Bai Zhan not accept her? He was clearly so drunk that he could not even walk properly, but he did not agree to her requests. Bai Zhan had indeed drunk a lot, so that day, he did not go to Aju's room as usual and cover her with a blanket. The night gradually darkened. Aju sat in front of the wooden door and did not return to the bed. Her small face looked somewhat absent-minded. Her mind kept recalling the scene she had seen before. She shook it back and forth twice, and then again. But this time, no matter how hard she shook, she could not get rid of those images. She remembered what Jiu Cheng had told her about what couples would do. In the past, when her little brother kissed her forehead, she had never thought that it was a big deal. Her little brother had said that there should be a morning kiss when he went out in the morning, and there should be a good night kiss at night. They both fell on her hair. But she didn't know that if her little brother did the same thing to someone else, she would be so sad. It was as if she was sick, and her chest hurt. She didn't want her little brother to find a girlfriend. But this thought was too selfish. It was really too selfish. Xiao Bai, what should I do? Chapter 1198. Aju curled up her body and lowered her eyes. Her long eyelashes hit her fair little face, but her expression was still fierce. Woolly Buddha said that since you like someone, you have to fight for it. But at the same time, you can't destroy other people's feelings. Meow. The little white cat meowed and jumped onto Aju's head. Aju's fingers wrapped around its tail. How about this? Let's ask little brother together tomorrow. If he really has someone he likes, let's go home. Jiyu Cheng is right. Little brother usually spends too much time on me, and I have never thought about whether he is willing or not. Everyone wants to be with the person they like. I can't take up so much of his time just because I am little brother's sister in name. I know better than anyone that my surname is not Bai. Meow, meow. The little white cat meowed twice in a low voice. It jumped down and nudged Aju's hand with its head, meaning that it wanted her to go to bed and sleep. Aju closed her eyes, but the uncomfortable feeling of breathing could not be dispersed no matter how hard she tried. If only she could grow up a little more. The next day, it seemed that everyone woke up very late, except for Jiyu Cheng. He dressed up refreshingly and put on his ski suit early. He did not care if Aju was still sleepy or not. He directly dug her out of bed. Hurry up and wash up. I got someone to make a very delicious sandwich. There's no meat in it. It's suitable for you to eat. Jiyu Cheng was here. Everything was done with his identity, and his work was also done cleanly and efficiently. Ever since he brought Aju out, the servants in the hall and the people from the club outside were all on standby, just so that their young master could have a good time. All the services were top-notch. Jiyu Cheng even got someone to drive a racing car specially used in the snow. It was just right to bring the little bin out to enjoy the snow scenery. The car drove out and would not be back for a while. When Bai Zhen went downstairs, it was 10 o'clock. He first went to Aju's room, but he did not see the person he wanted to see. Then, he went to the hot spring behind the house. In the end, the servant told him. In the morning, Aju and Jiyu Cheng went out and had not returned yet. When Bai Zhen heard this news, his hand that was drinking water paused. BLK's mineral water bottle was almost deformed by his grip. From yesterday evening until now, 16 hours. Except for sleeping, the two of them were together. He had made preparations. What would happen if Aju met someone she liked one day? There were many situations. This included the fact that the first thing she did after waking up was not to look for him, but to look for someone else. As long as he thought of such a thing, he could not help but hold Aju's hand tightly. But now, Bai Zhen realized that there was still a difference between imagination and personal experience. The former was just a little scared. As for the latter, every day felt like a year. Bai Zhen had never felt that the hour hand on his watch was moving so slowly. He just stood there in the living room, his arm hanging by his side. The mineral water bottle fell to the ground with a dull thud. On the other side, Aju did not know why, but she was very sleepy. But in her heart, she was thinking about getting that Alaskan Malamute for her little brother. When she was young, Grandpa Bai had mentioned that her little brother had always wanted to raise a big dog. Later on, she came to the Bai family because of her small stature. She raised a large dog, afraid that it would pounce on her. After that, the little brother never asked about the large dog again. In fact, at that time, Aju had said that she was not afraid of being pounced on by the big dog. She could beat the big dog to the ground. But later on, the little brother still did not raise it. He said that compared to those worldly things, she was more important. He did not want her to have any accidents. Aju was very clear about how good the little brother was to her. Therefore, she had to get this big dog from Jiyu Cheng. She had to. Hey, if you're tired, lean on my shoulder and sleep for a while. Jiyu Cheng laughed evilly. Don't worry, you're still wet behind the ears. I won't do anything to you. Aju did not say anything. Jiyu Cheng drove the car in the snow and raised his eyebrows. What was going on? Why was it so quiet? When he stopped the car and looked back, he found that the person he pulled out had already fallen asleep again. She's really a little bean. Why is she so sleepy? Jiyu Cheng was helpless. He could only drive the car back to the wooden house, but this time, the speed was much slower. He stopped the car again. He took off the windshield on his eyes and threw the car key to the servant beside him. He bent down and carried Aju horizontally. So light. Jiyu Cheng muttered to himself. He always felt that the person in his arms was different from the girls he had touched before. However, it was quite interesting that she was so silly and cute. Ji Cheng walked into the hall, but he did not see anyone get up. He placed Ajiu on the soft long sofa. The sofa was covered with the softest plush cushion. When Ji Cheng put Ajiu down, he didn't know why, but his eyes seemed to be unable to move away from that young and tender little face. Ji Cheng had always known that the little bean was very good looking, but he had never thought that the closer he looked, the more he wanted to look. He reached out his hand and his body also moved closer. But before Ji Cheng's kiss could land on Ajiu's face, his wrist was pulled up forcefully by someone. There was a bang. Ji Cheng's entire body was thrown out by a strong force and he crashed into the coffee table beside him. He narrowed his eyes and looked dangerously at the person who came. It was Bai Zhen. The other party did not say a word. He just looked down at him. That gaze was bone-chilling, without the slightest bit of warmth. If it wasn't for Ajiu rubbing her eyes behind him, she would have called out in a daze, "Little brother." At that moment, Ji Cheng even felt that Bai Zhen would kill him. He could clearly see that the hostility in Bai Zhen's eyes faded bit by bit. Then, Bai Zhen turned around, squatted down, and rubbed Ajiu's eyes. "Are you still sleepy?" "Yes." After being together for a long time, any action would become a habit. After confirming that the person standing in front of her was Bai Zhen, Ajiu subconsciously stretched out her hand. Without thinking, she wanted Bai Zhen to carry her up. Her actions were very cute. Of course, Bai Zhen would not refuse. He carried her up and did not even look at Ji Cheng beside him. He walked towards his room just like that. After putting Ajiu down, Bai Zhen first wiped her face. He could not bear to see the dirty look on his girl's face. "You're so sleepy, but you still want to go out." Bai Zhen lowered his voice and placed his fingers on Ajiu's sleeping face. His eyes quickly darkened. "Is he important enough for you to change yourself to cooperate with him?" Chapter 1199. Once one's thoughts were fixed, it seemed to be very difficult to jump out of it. No matter how smart a person was, they would always feel uneasy when it came to love. Even Bai Zhen was the same. Ajiu did not know why she was sleeping so soundly. She did not wake up until noon. When Bai Zhen turned to look at her wrist, he realized that the originally jade-like Buddha statue had started to become a little dirty at some point in time. The Buddha statue was specially used by him to protect Ajiu. Logically speaking, there should not be such a change. What was going on? Bai Zhen stood up with a dark look in his eyes. As he walked out, he made a call. He seemed to be contacting the seller. The person who sold the Buddha statue also had some skills. "Young Master Bai, from the first time I saw her, Miss Ju had a Buddhist affinity. Such a person was very rare in this world. She could not stand the turbidity of this world, but young Master Bai's righteousness could help her block these things. If young Master Bai was too far away from Miss Ju, this kind of situation could indeed happen. However, since there was a stain on the Buddha statue, it meant that it had blocked the turbidity for Miss Ju these days, so young Master Bai did not have to worry too much." After the call, Bai Zhen walked back to the room. He sat by the bed and brushed his fingers across Ajiu's face. Then, he hugged her in his arms. When Ajiu woke up, she smelled the most familiar scent on Bai Zhen's body. She happily grabbed Bai Zhen's clothes. Just as she was about to say something, she felt her stomach swell. It was very uncomfortable. When she lowered her head, she realized that her back was stained with a small patch of blood. Ajiu was instantly stunned. When she raised her eyes, she happened to meet Bai Zhen's gaze. Ajiu's small face was even more stunned. Of course, she knew what had happened to her. When she was in biology class, the teacher had told her. Therefore, Ajiu subconsciously wanted to stand up and run to the bathroom outside the house. However, Bai Zhen held her hand. It was rare for her to be confused. "There are other people outside. Put on my clothes before you go out." "No, that's not right. You'd better not get up. If you need anything, I'll buy it for you." Ajiu was obedient. She waited for Bai Zhen to get up. Bai Zhen looked at her and unexpectedly calmed down as well. He laughed softly and pressed his fingers on her head. He rubbed it back and forth and then stuffed her into the blanket. Wait for me to come up. Aju grabbed the corner of the blanket with both hands and nodded obediently. His stomach still hurt, and his body felt like it was weighed down by something as heavy as gold. In the past, his teacher had said that those who came would be considered adults. Then, wouldn't she be one step closer to little brother in the future? Aju was happy, but it was too awkward to move. Her stomach also hurt, and she kept falling. Her body was cold and hot. She curled up and closed her eyes. Her fingers were clenched into fists as she pressed against her lower abdomen, but there was a smile on her face. On the other side, Lord Bai came out, but he didn't know what to do next. Without thinking, he dialed a number. The call was to Li Hailu. When a girl comes, what is more comfortable to use? Bai Zhan's voice was very indifferent. Little gangster Li was still playing games. What do you mean by that? It's that. When Bai Zhan said this, he had already walked out of the wooden house. Li Hailu bared his teeth. Fuck, my boss has become a spirit. What exactly is that? My period. As soon as Bai Zhan finished speaking, the ski tourists who were still packing up in front all looked in his direction. Their expressions were very complicated. Li Hailu was so shocked that he threw the mouse away. What did you say? Don't repeat the previous question. Recommend a few brands to me. Bai Zhan's voice became even fainter. Li Hailu stood up, and he didn't care about the game anymore. No, why are you asking me such a question? I'm not a girl. Master Bai, do you think you're doing this kind of thing? No matter what, I'm still half a class belle. Just tell me if you know what's good for you. Bai Zhan raised his eyebrows and sneered. Cut the crap. Li Hailu immediately said, I know, but this shouldn't be divided into brands. The cotton one is very useful. It's best to buy the lengthened one. Wait a minute, Bai Zhan, why are you asking me this now? Don't tell me you're planning to buy it yourself. I'm hanging up. I'll contact you when I get back. After Bai Zhan asked his question, he planned to hang up. Li Hailu was still shouting on the other side, tell me clearly. Hey, Bai Zhan. Fuck. Li Hailu saw that he could not call Bai Zhan back, so he simply turned his head to Xiao Lin, who was sitting beside him, and said excitedly, Did you hear that just now? Xiao Lin covered his left face and gestured for Li Hailu to look to his left. Only then did Li Hailu remember that he was not playing games at home, but at an internet cafe. He tilted his head slightly and saw that those who were not wearing earphones were looking at him. Their meaning was obvious. They were basically saying, how could a big guy like you know so much about women's products in such detail? Li Hailu really wanted to bury himself. His lifelong reputation was ruined because of that. However, after being annoyed, he still had to gossip. He held Xiao Lin's hand and did not care whether he was still fighting or not. Tell me, what's wrong with Master Bai? Isn't it what you heard? Xiao Lin was very calm. Someone who can make Bai Zhan personally buy this thing. Aju. Li Hailu slapped his forehead and was stunned again. Then, with a look of regret, he said, Why didn't we go skiing with them? We missed such a good show. Master Bai personally bought tampons. Thinking about that scene, it's funny. In fact, it was indeed the case. It was probably related to Bai Zhan's temperament. It was indeed not appropriate for a person like him to stand in front of girls' products. Not to mention, he even bent down and carefully selected them. The salesperson beside him kept looking at him. Bai Zhan did not avoid it. Anyway, he had already come to this point. He simply walked to the salesperson's side and coughed lightly. It was rare for him to speak in a blunt manner. I want to ask, where is the brown sugar? The salesperson really felt that the boy in front of her was so handsome that he had an indescribable feeling. It was that kind of youthful purity. When she heard Bai Zhan's voice again, she was instantly captivated. She even specially recommended ginger and brown sugar to Bai Zhan. Bai Zhan thanked her and bought almost everything that he could buy. The salesperson could not help but have a gossipy heart. You bought it for your girlfriend, right? Bai Zhan paused for a moment before saying, Yes. The salesperson was so charmed. Buying sanitary pads for his girlfriend was simply too heartwarming. Chapter 1200. In fact, Baijan did not know much about this aspect. No boy would specially understand this. The matter of drinking brown sugar water during menstruation was something he had just found on the internet. Therefore, when he did these things, he really lost his previous speed. It was already half an hour later when he returned to his room. When Adju saw Baijan enter, she immediately showed her head. Her small face was filled with guilt. The bedsheets are dirty too. If they're dirty, change them. Baijan walked over and rubbed her hair. It's just a bedsheet. Just by looking at Adju's face, Baijan knew that she was in a lot of pain. He did not let Adju walk at all. He bent down and carried her horizontally, not caring if his fingers would be dirty. Call me when you're done. Baijan stood outside the bathroom, only a door away. Perhaps only girls would understand Adju's feelings. When it was the first time, she would always be at a loss and feel a little ashamed that she did not want others to know. After changing out of her dirty clothes, Adju picked up the things that Baijan had bought for her. Her small face was red as she fixed it there before walking out. Baijan lowered his eyes to look at her and could not help but smile. Silly Adju, this is very normal. Don't be embarrassed. Tell me, are there any other discomfort? Adju shook her head. At this time, she really did not want to ask him anything. The more Baijan looked at her, the more interesting he felt. He picked her up again and placed her on the bed. I'll remove the bedsheets later. First, use the quilt and drink some brown sugar water before you sleep. Adju did not like to drink sweet things, but she still drank all the water that Baijan gave her in one gulp. Her cheeks were still bulging, and that expression was really more uncomfortable than drinking medicine. Baijan put the empty bowl aside and pulled the quilt over to cover Adju's body. He also lay down on it and helped Adju massage her waist with his left hand. Only then did he realize that no one had taught Adju this aspect. Thinking about it, the child grew up on the mountain. Later, after coming to the Bai family, he seemed to. It's my fault. I should have noticed it earlier. Baijan lowered his voice. After so many years, only he knew how selfish he had been. Xiao Lin had noticed his possessiveness a long time ago. Xiao Lin had also told him not to use this method to educate Adju, because it was too unfair to Adju. He wanted to take up even a little bit of her time. He clearly knew that this was wrong, but he couldn't control himself. If Adju had a female best friend, she would not be as helpless as she was just now. At her age, she should have made many friends by now. However, there was no one beside her. It was him. She was nicer to others. He tried to attract Adju's attention. Every time, Adju would rarely interact with others for his sake. He was the one who had single-handedly caused this. Baijan lowered his eyes and gripped the quilt in his hand tightly. Adju turned around and looked at Baijan. She said seriously, "Little brother is not wrong." The two of them were very close to each other. It was as if they had returned to their childhood and were chatting face to face. After saying the first sentence, Adju asked the next sentence, "Can I kiss little brother?" Baijan thought it was a kiss on the face, so he smiled and said, "Of course." However, before he could react, the person in his arms leaned over and pressed her soft and warm lips against his. "It's sweet." Adju smacked her lips and smiled at Baijan, who was being kissed. Baijan clenched his hands tightly. She had not grown up yet, but more than anyone else. "Don't talk anymore. Go to sleep." Baijan took a deep breath and directly pressed that annoying little head into his chest. This silly girl, did she know that lips could not be kissed casually? Adju blinked and was obedient. She was about to reach out and hug Baijan's waist. She felt that there was a sudden earthquake somewhere. It was the position of her chest. It was clearly the same as before, the most familiar contact. However, her body was a little strange. Her heart was beating so fast. And for some reason, she felt that she did not dare to look at little brother just now. Adju buried her face a little deeper. Baijan hugged her. "Be good, go to sleep." At the beginning, Aju did not sleep because she would always unconsciously count Baijan's heartbeat. She also asked the question that she had always wanted to ask, "Little brother, do you have someone you like?" Baijan's body stiffened. Aju's heartbeat also stiffened. She really wanted to hear a denial. Although even Aju herself did not know why she wanted to hear Baijan say no. It was probably because if that was the case, little brother would only belong to her forever. However, the answer Baijan gave her was a very certain word. Yes. Aju moved her arm with difficulty. It came again. That kind of stuffy feeling in her chest. At this moment, Baijan directly covered her eyes. "Child, don't ask so many questions. Go to sleep quickly. I'm not a child." Aju's voice lowered. "It would be great if I could grow up faster. That way, I wouldn't always be treated as a child by little brother." Baijan pushed her hair away. His eyes were dark, but he did not say anything. However, the real him, the selfish him, did not want Aju to grow up. Because when Aju grew up, it was very likely that she would not need him anymore. Just like the situation this morning, no matter how much he guarded against it, there was still someone else in her eyes. She did not know if it was because of her period, but when she got up and returned, Aju was much quieter and did not stick to Baijan anymore. Instead, she just sat there obediently, holding her little white cat in her arms. She thought about a lot of things. In the past, someone had said that she should not take up so much of Baijan's time just because she was his sister. At that time, she could not think about these things. But now, little brother said that he had someone he liked. She could no longer selfishly pretend that she did not hear it. Last night, she wrote an email to her family. Her mother's reply to her was also the same. If the other party already had someone he liked, then don't force it. Because no matter how much you liked him, it was your own business. Even if you got the love that had hurt others, it was not open and above board. Little brother should want to be with the person he liked. But with her around, he was worried about her. Because in his heart, she was still that child who always needed others to take care of her. A child. Aju lowered her head and looked at her hand that had not grown up yet. Her big eyes lost a lot of luster. "Beauties, kiss me, good night." Chapter 1201. The next day, Baijan and the others still had to go to class. There were only 7 or 8 days until the winter vacation. Under normal circumstances, high school would take the exam first, and middle school would take the exam again. There was not much time difference. But at this moment, a very unbelievable thing happened in the high school department. Someone actually wanted to transfer in, and they wanted to transfer immediately. They were transferring to high school grade 3 class A. Not only were the teachers in the office surprised, but even some of the directors were surprised when they heard about this. It was already time for the exam, why would they transfer? Moreover, the third year of high school was the most important year. Wouldn't it affect their studies if they transferred? The teaching standard of number 1 high school was one of the best in the country. They didn't come early or late, but they were stuck at this time. Then, would the students be able to follow their tutorials after they came? They had already finished teaching all the high school knowledge points when they were in their second year of high school. Now, they were in a state of revision. Students who had not listened to the lessons would probably find it difficult to adapt. Under normal circumstances, as the school, they had to consider the other party's aptitude. Even if they wanted to transfer, they had to wait until after the new year. But this time, it was very strange. The school's higher-ups did not say anything and directly arranged for them to enter high school grade 3 class A. Really? Or is it fake? A transfer student? It's true, it's true. I just went to the teaching office and saw it. It's a handsome guy, very handsome, at the school bell level. Handsome guy? Come on, can he be more handsome than God Baijan? Even a few schools combined can't compare to him. The female student who revealed the news hesitated for a moment and said, "How should I put it? If you said this in the past, I could tell you with certainty that he can't be more handsome. But that person just now, he's not inferior to God Baijan. It's mainly because of his temperament. He's like a prince. You'll know when he comes. Is it that exaggerated? I don't believe it. Godbai is a player who can PK all the boys in the district. What kind of person can he? The student who was speaking suddenly paused, because outside the classroom, a young man in a white shirt walked over with a smile on his face. His hair was pure black, and his lips were very good-looking. Especially his eyes, they were as deep as the legendary river of helplessness. When the light shone in, the reflection of the waves carried an indescribable beauty. However, there was a strong scholarly aura around him, as if all the noise could pass by him, leaving only the unique tranquility of a young man. With such an outstanding appearance, he would definitely attract everyone's attention. Even little gangster Li and Xiao Lin, who were still playing with their phones and discussing where to go after school, raised their heads. Damn, he's so long. Don't tell me. Li Hailu touched his chin and continued, he can really challenge Lord Bai. Where did he come from? Xiao Lin narrowed his eyes and put down his phone. At this time, the teacher walked in and greeted everyone with a smile. Come, students, sit down. This is a new student from our class. Let's get to know each other. Teacher, what's the new student's name? A boy shouted, then sighed and said, he's so handsome. Can he go to another class? The teacher burst out laughing. She adjusted her glasses and looked at the new student next to her. The young man took a step forward, a black bag slung over one shoulder, and wrote 4 words on the blackboard on the podium. The words were like the person, as clear as jade. This is my name, Helian Qingchen. Li Hailu raised his eyebrows. A compound surname? Why did you choose such an ancient name? Helian. Hey, Lindsay, you know a lot of people. There's no one with this surname in our circle, right? Indeed, there isn't. Xiao Lin picked up the carbon pen next to him and frowned. Li Hailu chuckled. This is interesting. She can transfer to our number 1 high school when the exam is coming. Isn't she from our circle? Could it be another family like the GU family? You and I both know the GU family. Xiao Lin glanced at him. Do you know this? Li Hailu shook his head. He really did not know them. Logically speaking, although they were not familiar with the people in the business circle, they had seen them before. Why had they not even heard of this new student? Could it be that he really got in based on his strength? Wasn't it a little too unbelievable for him to come at this time? Qingchen, the previous seats are all full. The exam is in a few days. You should sit in the last row first. After the exam is over, we'll arrange the tables for the school meeting. The homeroom teacher pushed her glasses again. She seemed to be in an exceptionally good mood. When Bai Zhan saw this, he said, there's no need to guess. He probably got in through the exam. Why? Li Hailu thought to himself. He hadn't even asked around yet. How did Master Bai know? Bai Zhan finished the last math problem and closed the book. His voice was indifferent. The homeroom teacher's reaction. When have you ever seen her smile at anyone other than me? That's because your logic is too abnormal. Li Hailu gritted his teeth. You always get full marks. Even Abbess Mihu is bewitched by you. Bai Zhan was very calm. Then look at how Abbess Mihu is treating the new student now. After Bai Zhan's reminder, Li Hailu noticed that Abbess Mihu, who rarely smiled in a year, was in an excessively good mood today. Fuck, what's going on? Could the new student be Abbess Mihu's son? Li Hailu was shocked by the homeroom teacher's enthusiasm. Xiao Lin pushed the glasses on his face. They don't look alike. They look different. Li Hailu thought for a while. This new student is too handsome. If he really is Abbess Mihu's son, it would be a little against biological common sense. However, Li Hailu admired anyone who entered with their own strength. What did this mean? This meant that there was another abnormal top student in the class. At the very least, he was on the same level as Bai Zhan. Perhaps there was such a thing as aura in this world. This was because when the new student passed by, Li Hailu really felt a gust of wind. He originally thought that he would just walk over. However, when he walked past, his gaze fell on Bai Zhan. I heard that you are the first in this school? His tone was very indifferent, and there was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. However, in all these years, No one had ever dared to ask Bai Zhan such a question. Li Hailu subconsciously frowned. It was said that with just one sentence, the new transfer student started a fire. Almost everyone in the class was discussing it. There were also people from the next class who ran over to watch. They were looking at none other than Helian Qingchen. "Hey, have you heard? There's a new student in Class A." Chapter 1202. Of course I've heard. He's very handsome, right? He even dares to challenge Bai Zhan. He's really the number one person in number one high school. Didn't anyone dig up that transfer student's background? Coming at this time, his family background isn't simple, right? I haven't heard of any family background. However, some people said that he was specially recruited and that Abbess Mihu personally set the questions. He can even pass the questions set by Abbess Mihu? More than just pass. He finished it in half an hour and got full marks. He even wrote 2 solutions to the last question. Fuck, another top student. So what if he's a top student? His family background can't be compared to Bai Zhan's. I heard that he rode a bicycle and is very ordinary. Helian Qingchen, who was said to be ordinary, was sitting in the classroom at this moment. Her slender fingers tapped on her left ear. It was just a black earring, but at this moment, it emitted a faint light. Yes, I saw Bai Zhan. I'm in the same class as him. Helian Qingchen held a pencil and chuckled. Heh, you provoked him a little. Not bad. You're quite calm. No need. I can be here by myself. Brother, I have more money than you. You really don't have to always think about sending me money. If this goes on, your manager will cry. Don't worry, when I see Aju, I will bring your gift to her. You have to film well and don't always make things difficult for Uncle Manager. Okay, I know. You didn't make things difficult for him. You just went to the nightclub without even informing him. The last time you didn't see him, he even called me. To be honest, brother, to be your manager, you really have to be smooth and slick. There's no need to find someone. Have you forgotten that I'm very good at exams? It's quite simple to come in. Okay, I know. I will take good care of myself. No one noticed that Helian Qingchen was talking on the phone because he looked like he was reading English. He was holding a book in his hand and did not have any communication equipment. However, they did not know that sometimes books and ballpoint pens could be disguised. Who was Helian Qingchen? He was the little boss of the ghost organization. At the age of 17, he could already take on deals alone. How could he do it without some hardware? Actually, going to high school wasn't difficult for him at all. The main reason was the email written by Aju. Helian Qingchen put down the thing in her hand and turned her head to look at Bai Zhan, who was not far away. Her eyes narrowed slightly. From the perspective of a brother, he really did not want Aju to like such a boy. Because for someone like Bai Zhan, it was really difficult not to attract the likes of other girls. However, from what Aju said, she already had someone she liked. Helian Qingchen curved his thin lips. He didn't know why, but he had a feeling that things weren't as his little sister thought. Therefore, he still had to observe. Helian Qingchen twirled the ballpoint pen in her hand and then smiled again. No matter what, even if they couldn't meet often, it was still good to observe from a close distance in the same school. He couldn't always see his little sister, but he could see Bai Zhan every day. Originally, he could have brought Aju home as soon as the spring festival arrived. If it weren't for that unexpected email, he wouldn't have appeared here at this time. Since he was here, he had to let the other party know that their Aju also had someone who liked her. Helian Qingchen stood up and carried her school bag on her left shoulder. She put her hands in her pockets and walked around Xiao Lin and Li Hailu, who were standing in front of her. Li Hailu had never seen such an arrogant person before. Following that, he clenched his fists tightly. Hey, Xiao Lin, why do I have the urge to beat someone up? You can't beat him. Xiao Lin was indeed the most meticulous among them. There are calluses on his hands. He should have trained before. But I've also checked. He is indeed very ordinary. Li Hailu scratched his hair. I haven't felt so angry in a long time. The last time I was very angry was when I met Aju for the first time. Bai Zhen did not say anything, but his eyes darkened. Xiao Lin raised his hand, indicating that he should not mention Aju at this time. Li Hailu also noticed that the atmosphere was a little wrong. Master Bai, did you and Aju have a falling out? No. How could it not be? Do you think we are blind? Li Hailu could not be blamed for being so cautious. The main reason was that with Master Bai's falling out, it was very likely that he would be the unlucky one. He did not forget how Bai Zhen had moved to his house that year and how he had come over. However, after so many years, the brother and sister had been on extremely good terms. How could they fall out just like that? Moreover, it was different from last time. This time, instead of saying that the two of them were falling out, it would be better to say that they were very much like a normal pair of siblings. That's right, it was really very normal. In the past, he and Xiao Lin both felt that Master Bai doted on Aju too much, and Aju was like a little tail. Bai Zhen could see her everywhere he went. Although she was very obedient, she was not to be trifled with. Who dared to say anything bad about Bai Zhen? That guy could practically lift a person up with one hand. He still remembered that in the past, someone wanted to use Aju to threaten Master Bai. He thought that Aju was simple and did not have any tricks up her sleeve, so he used food to invite Aju to the darkest alley behind the school. Aju did go, but it was not for the food. Instead, when she heard that person's words, she deliberately followed that group of people to teach them a lesson. In fact, the so-called group of people were some students from number 3 high school who did not like Bai Zhen. They probably did not expect that the person they had tricked was not a little white rabbit, but a little tiger. Although the little tiger was a little dull by nature, it was always unusually fierce when it came to matters related to Bai Zhen. With the way Aju protected Bai Zhen, to be honest, he and Xiao Lin might not be able to compare. Bai Zhen was right about everything. This Master Bai also knew how to raise a child. But now, no one knew why, but there was always such a feeling. Aju was not as clingy to Bai Zhen as before. Although she would still obediently follow him, she no longer took the initiative to get close to him. But if it was only Aju who was like this, it would be fine. Even Master Bai's side was very strange. He actually learned to distance himself from Aju. Why was this so? Li Hailu thought so much that his head was about to explode, but when he saw Bai Zhen's absent-minded side profile, he was so silent that he could not speak. It made him unable to ask the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Could it be that the older they grew, the deeper the estrangement between them? Chapter 1203. Ji Yu Cheng? The one from junior high. Master Li was confused. Isn't he just Ji Yu Ru's younger brother? What does he have to do with our Master Bai? Xiao Lin glanced at him. His Aju's deskmate, and some people say that he treats Aju very differently. Li Hailu immediately came to a realization. He turned his head to look at Bai Zhen. We should indeed talk to him. How old is Aju, right? Don't let him lead her astray. Was that the main point? Xiao Lin was speechless at his brother and pushed Li Hailu away. Bai Zhen also stood up at this time. He held his wallet in his left hand, and his tone was so indifferent that no emotions could be seen. It's time. What do you want to eat? Xiao Lin was clearly trying to change the topic. Li Hailu exclaimed and was led out by Xiao Lin. However, as soon as the three of them walked out of the classroom, there was a commotion. Look at the person standing there. A beauty. There's someone so good-looking in our school. Idiot, look at the uniform. The top is different. It's not from our school. It's from the second high school. What the fuck? Isn't this the school bell of second high? That's strange. Isn't there a class in second high today? Why did she come to our school? Are you stupid? It's lunch break now. Second high school is not far from our school. Isn't it normal to come and take a look? Normal? Although our first high school has a high enrollment rate, our conditions are not as good as second high schools. What's so good about her coming to our school? Wait a minute, could it be that she's here to see the school hunk? As soon as the girl finished speaking, Ji-Ru waved at Li Hai-Lu and the others with a bright smile on her face. She jogged over with a backpack on her back. Behind her were two beautiful girls. "Hai-Lu, you guys are so slow." One of the girls spoke. She was indeed pleasing to the eye. "We've been waiting for you guys for a long time. Ji-Ru even said that we might not be able to meet you guys if we didn't make an appointment in advance. How is it? Let's go eat together. I heard that the food in your school's cafeteria is quite delicious." Little gangster Lee was really unprepared. He did not expect that they would come back at all. He was instantly speechless. For some reason, the atmosphere was a little awkward. Ji-Ru chuckled and said to the two girls, "Keep a low profile. After all, this is number 1 high school. Just follow them." Unfortunately, wherever Baizhan was, people would always look askance. It was the same even when they went to the cafeteria. The middle school and high school students ate in the same cafeteria. The difference was that the high school students seemed to have more pocket money than the middle school students. They would go to the second floor of the cafeteria to order a small fry. Aju liked to eat vegetarian food and had always been easy to get rid of. Moreover, Auntie Wang doted on her. She always felt that the food in the school cafeteria was always a little worse than the food at home. Therefore, usually, Aju would carry her lunchbox and go to the small stir-fry window on the second floor with the little white cat on her head to wait for Baizhan. It was the same this time. However, what Aju did not expect was that other than Baizhan and the others, Ji-Ru and the others were also following behind them. The girls were all very enthusiastic. One by one, they greeted Aju and whispered, "So cute." They stood beside Aju. Ji-Ru had a smile on her face. She put her hands behind her back and said intimately, "Aju, we meet again." "Yes." The white cat on Aju's head was still wagging its tail. For some reason, it suddenly straightened its body and looked outside the cafeteria. Ji-Ru did not pay attention to the animal. She smiled lightly and said, "Aju, go over there and sit for a while. You carry the cat, so don't walk around the cafeteria. It's not convenient. Tell me what you want to eat. Your brother and I will go and order for you." "No need." Aju held the lunchbox in her hand and didn't care much. "I brought food." Ji-Ru didn't say much. "All right then, we'll order whatever we want to eat." "Yes." Aju placed the lunchbox on the table. The white cat jumped down and stood to the side. Baizhan walked over and said, "If the food in the lunchbox is cold, tell me." "It's not very cold." Aju reached out and touched it. In the past, the two of them would stick together whenever they met. Now, although they could still talk to each other, Baizhan still did the same things as before. Even the lines were the same. However, Li Hai-Lu and the others could feel the alienation between them. They still had to order the food quickly. After all, there was not much time to rest at noon. After eating, they still had to go back and lie down for a while. That way, they would be energetic for the afternoon class. Of course, no matter which school it was, the cafeteria was equivalent to a battlefield. Everyone lined up like warriors in order to get the best food. Usually, at this time, when Baizhan and the others appeared, although it would cause a commotion, it would not be like today, where many people stayed to watch. The arrival of Ji-Ru and the other two girls simply ignited the gossipy hearts of many people. They even came to our school's cafeteria to eat. Could it be that the two of them were really together like the rumors said? Is one of the other two senior brother Lee's girlfriend? Ah, no. I still want to confess. The girls from second high school are better looking than those from first high school. No matter how good looking they are, people still like Baizhan. This era of looking at faces is simply enough. Although there would occasionally be one or two words of envy and jealousy, with Baizhan's character, more people felt that the two of them were very compatible. There was no one who did not like to see the combination of a handsome man and a beautiful woman. There were a lot of discussions downstairs. After all, there were not many seats upstairs, so people only looked and did not say anything. When Ji-Ru walked past, there was still a smile on the corner of her mouth, which won the favor of many people. "Oh right, Hai-Lu, I heard that there's a new student in first high school." A beautiful girl asked from the side. He looks quite handsome. Li Hailu raised his eyebrows. How did you know? This transfer student is extremely popular. That provocative sentence of Bai Zhan has been posted on our school's Tiebar. The girl smiled and said, just listening to his tone is quite cool, but I still don't know what he looks like. If he provokes you again, what do you plan to do? In so many years, this is the first time someone's discussion can drown out yours. Li Hailu placed the stir-fried dishes on the table. Then let people talk about it. Ji Ru chuckled when she heard this. It seems that even our little tyrant has been angered by the other party. All right, don't worry about it. Hurry up and order some food. The new student still doesn't know who he has provoked. When he finds out, he will definitely regret what he has said. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.